J Squad.
We gotta find now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. Now what do we do? That's the first clue. We gotta find the program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue. The program. That's the first clue. We gotta find. That's the first clue. That's the first clue.
Yo, what is going on, guys? How y'all doing tonight? Oh, it is for me it is cold out here today in my garage. Having to put layers on to even make it through. We got a good fun, I think, stream today. A couple different subjects to go over. First of all is going to be Vara Dark and Ubisoft. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna watch first. I'm thinking we're gonna watch the history of Ubisoft first, or like the down. I found a video that's the downfall of Ubisoft, and it's a very. I've kind of skimmed through it and looked, and it seems like it's a very well done video, talking about a lot of the controversies of Ubisoft and how they didn't seem to do much of anything. Did you see at least what I tagged you in Feed the Pig? Uh, I believe so. Hold on. Let me relook at it. Let me relook at it here. That's Piggy and Pets. Feed the Pig. I know we got to talking about Warhammer. Grizzle. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The shots fired on Rev being bisexual, and apparently when Strawberry first met him, she thought he was just gay. Yet they're all about those like strong Christian values, which they're on the side of the guys that would say no, no, gay marriage needs to be abolished and gotten rid of. So they're those kind of Christians. Grizzle may be joining me later today. We'll see if he jumps in as we go through it. It's so funny how fake these loser odds. Yeah, you could spend like a couple of minutes just going through their history, their what else? Like their controversies and stuff like that, and it just seems like easy. They're on the side that will make fun of Rev for having a little girl avatar. Yeah, that's the thing. He should be one of the people that they criticize for being a man with a little girl avatar. It's just not a good look for someone who's claiming to be a Christian. Oh, yay. I'm already muted. I'm already muted. Hold on here. I think someone. Oh, that message didn't come up for me. Let me do. Oh, I see. I see. Hold on. Let me fix chat because chat's not giving me all the messages, and it's because it repopulated. Back to. Boop. All right. Y'all can hear me now. I'm not muted. So we should be good to go. Reset the counter. Or rest the counter. Yeah, so we're gonna go take a look at this. We're gonna see what we can see, and continue our little journey into the anti-wokes as we always do here on the channel. So first I said the history of Ubisoft. Then we'll get into Vara.
In charge of the division, looked at Destiny and said, we need RPG progression.
Okay.
Ubisoft is their own worst enemy. A company that was once one of the biggest names in gaming is now teetering on the brink of destruction. For years, Ubisoft was known for pushing the boundaries of what was possible in gaming. Legendary franchises, revolutionary open world games.
Dude, Anno is still like a great game to this day. I have it on Epic Store, so I haven't played it in like forever because I don't have like all the DLCs and I just don't like using Epic anymore. But I've thought about like buying it on Steam just so I have it. So yeah, they used to be great at making these epic franchises and great new titles.
All of it under the tutelage of 5 brothers, the Guillemot family. But their good fortune wouldn't last forever. One of the brothers, Yves Guillemot, would slowly drag the company into a downward spiral, putting out half-finished games and valuing investors over the players. What should have been a gaming dynasty has now become a twisted version of its former self. This is the downfall of Ubisoft and all the deadly decisions that are killing the company. Ubisoft was founded in 1986 in Saint-Mond, France by the Guillemot brothers, the youngest of whom would go on to be CEO. By the 90s, they had already found moderate success with games like Rayman, and in the 2000s, they really started to take off. Ubisoft created shooters like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell, adventure games like Prince of Persia, and cult classics like Beyond Good and Evil. But by far, their greatest achievements were Far Cry, which revolutionized the FPS genre by taking place in an open world, and Assassin's Creed, which took that same open world concept and pushed it a step further.
God, you think about like Ubisoft today, and you almost don't think of these games anymore. Just they're so generic now, and they could be working on any of these other old franchises to bring it back or to do something different than Far Cry and Assassin's Creed.
By the 2010s, Ubisoft was an unstoppable machine, putting out annual sequels to their most...
You said the video is overpowering my voice, by the way. Well, I'll try to pause more. That way you could hear me when we're going through it.
Popular franchises and publishing games by the fistful. But their rate of production was not sustainable for the scale of the games they wanted to make. Every new game was bigger and more grand than the last one, but you can only promise to revolutionize open world games so many times before you simply can't deliver on that promise anymore. Which is exactly what happened. The year is 2013. Ubisoft was getting ready for its next big release, which they believed would once again revolutionize gaming. The project was called Watch Dogs. It was an open-world action-adventure game where you play as a hacker named Aiden Pierce. The idea was that you, using this neat little device, are able to hack into...
I actually never played the first game, and I bought Watch Dogs 2, and just, I don't know, it didn't really do anything for me.
Anything in the world around you. Identify people, make their phones malfunction, listen in on police scanners, and alter traffic lights to cause car accidents. The concept was pretty cool on its own, but that was nothing compared to the tech demo that was shown at E3 2012. When this demo released, it felt like a quantum leap forward for video games. Ubisoft had created this open world playground that blew all of their previous titles out of the water. One of the draws of the game was its stealth gameplay. There was a heavy emphasis on remaining incognito, blending into the background to avoid unwanted attention. Unfortunately, not everyone has access to the kind of cybersecurity Aiden Pierce has in Watch Dogs, but thankfully, we've got the next best thing. Incogni. Entering your personal information online can be dangerous. The scary truth is that at incogni.com/action60.
That's my favorite button.
After dropping this gameplay demo, the team at Ubisoft went dark for almost a full year. It's clear that they were building up to something and would likely show off more gameplay at E3 2013. To say people were excited was an understatement. Thankfully, all that waiting paid off. When we finally got our second look at Watch Dogs, we were shocked. The game looked like crap, at least compared to what we were shown originally.
this was such a common thing too that was happening in the game industry around here. They were showing these tech demos and slices of, I mean, it still happens today. It's just more widely accepted. But they were showing these like tech demos and things like that that were, well, are not tech demos, more of like little scenes of the game, and this is what you're going to be doing. And they looked like gameplay and stuff like that. But then you get the game, and it's nowhere near the level that they said it was going to be. It was not just Ubisoft doing this.
Let's take a moment to compare these two. In the E3 reveal, the character animations look stiff. The hacking looks like a cheap firecracker display, and the graphics are washed out, unpolished, and painfully average. They don't look like they're from the same decade, let alone the same game. It quickly became evident that fans had been served a vertical slice, a small, hyper-polished slice of a game filled with elaborate NPC set pieces, animations that don't appear in the real game, and graphics cranked to 11. Now, it's important to note that this wasn't something new. Tons of game developers did this to drum a pipe for their games or to get a small demo out the door while the rest of the game was still under construction. But the scale to which Ubisoft did this with Watch Dogs was shocking. Coming out of the Watch Dogs fiasco, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot went on record saying that the experience would fundamentally change the way Ubisoft approached trailers and new releases. He assured fans that Ubisoft would commit to making their games playable, and that the demos they showed at events like E3 would be representative of the final product. But that didn't really happen.
Surprise.
At that same E3 20...
Surprise. CEOs didn't care to change anything. They just like to tell you they will.
13 event, Ubisoft released another trailer for a new game that whipped people into a frenzy. The announcement for The Division promised one thing. Can you guess? It's gonna revolutionize gaming forever. Yeah, we've heard that one before. The Division was a tactical, co-op third-person shooter that was also supposed to be a PvP MMO. The trailer showcased this gritty cityscape with incredible ambiance and action set pieces straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Much like Watch Dogs, after this demo, the game went back underground. It would be 3 years before the game finally released, and in those 3 years, something in the game fundamentally changed. While players were expecting this immersive tactical game where you and your friends execute surgical strike missions and badass urban warfare, what they got was this weird kind of RPG, kind of not RPG game filled with bullet sponge enemies and cookie cutter missions. It felt like The Division was trying to be a Destiny clone, which released in 2014. The mission structures were similar, the small instance MMO vibe was similar, but above all else, the addition of grinding for gear felt the most similar and the most out of place. It felt like whoever was in charge of The Division looked at
There was nothing like in this game. It's like it's a shooter game, but it's like Destiny-esque where the guns, you know, the moment you spend enough time in there, the guns you have become worthless. You have to go find new ones. Assassin's Creed, I'm missing out, people. Yes, we are allowed them to get away with delivering us what was not shown. Yeah, exactly. Especially now, it's even worse. I think now where they'll show stuff. Ended up being the biggest piece of trash at the moment, by the way. And curious to see if he brings up Unity. I'm hoping he will.
Destiny and said, "We need RPG progression in our game." After grinding through the game's base missions, players were faced with the reality that there was no endgame. Live service also meant that the game was chock full of unnecessary microtransactions. The DLCs were paywalled, cosmetic items were pretty expensive, and the game was originally slated to have in-game currency you could use to buy weapons and gear. Thankfully, that was scrapped due to fan pushback of it being pay to win, but this
Division could have been cool in it if they actually cared about it when they launched. Well, Ubisoft was moving into this new idea of, microtransactions. They were even starting to put it in their single-player games. I don't know if the Division came out first, but I was a huge fan of Ghost Wildlands. Like really cool open world to go through. If I went with my buddies, it seemed tactical. And you know what? That ended up the next one I was super excited about. super excited about. And what happened? They put like a ton of microtransactions in there and pay to win features and everything else. It's like, I'm not doing this. That's not what it wasn't even what I would consider a Ghost Recon game. Prince of Persia's were pretty good, but they're dated. Yeah, they're dated as fuck if you play them today. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Sorry.
This was clearly something Ubisoft wanted to implement. In fact, Ubisoft felt the need to include microtransactions in all of their games moving forward, starting with one of their mainline franchises, Assassin's Creed.
We are the first.
The RPGification of the Assassin's Creed series was an attempt to breathe some life into the stagnant franchise. With the critical failure of AC Unity and Syndicate, both of which were panned for being buggy and repetitive, Assassin's Creed underwent a makeover.
He mentioned it a little bit, but that was like one of the worst launches they had. I didn't even buy that one. I was kind of getting out of the Assassin's Creed after 3. But yeah, that was a particularly bad one for them. Yeah, Ghost Recon Wildlands was neat, and I think it came after the Division. I hear they fixed the Ghost Recon Breakpoint. It's pretty cool now. Maybe I'll have to try it out because like I like the idea, I liked the concepts, but it just all of that stuff gets me out of it. Which AC1 was the original going to be a Prince of Persia sequel set in the Crusades until they decided to do something completely different. Well, I mean that worked out for them, right? That was naturally a good choice because people, flocked to it.
The first game being Assassin's Creed Origins. Thanks to whoever makes the decisions at Ubisoft, AC Origins featured a 6-tab store in a story-based single-player game, which people already paid $70 for. Cosmetics, XP boosts, supply packs, and even the option to reveal parts of the map, all available for a few dollars each. This news caused outrage at launch, and understandably so. Having XP boosts and crafting materials available for purchase means the developers likely made the game slower and more grindy on purpose to encourage players to spend money. Origin sequels, Odyssey and Valhalla, had more of the same, and despite the in-game store being fairly unintrusive, it still felt like there was content artificially excluded from the base game only to be resold back to the player, despite them already having spent $70 to $130 depending on which version of the game they bought. And the bad press continued. When developing Odyssey, the dev team wanted Cassandra, one of the two leads, to be the only option as a playable character. However, Ubisoft's chief creative officer, Sergei Haskot, told the devs that having a female lead wouldn't sell. So Ubisoft added Alexios, resulting in 2 characters. Once the reasoning behind the change made headlines, Ubisoft faced a ton of backlash with claims of pandering and sexism. The fans wanted to know, who's to blame for all of this? And all eyes turned to the CEO, Yves Guillemot. Now is a good time to mention that behind the scenes at Ubisoft, something was driving the Guillemot family absolutely insane and threatened to take Ubisoft away from them. Between 2015 and 2018, the French company Vivendi attempted a hostile takeover. Really quickly, some Finance 101. A hostile takeover is when you buy more and more stock in a company in an attempt to brute force your way into becoming a majority stakeholder. Under French law, once you purchase 30% of a company, you're legally obligated to make an offer to buy.
Now, yeah, like this I didn't know at the time that it was trying to happen. So that's an interesting thing that they were getting hit to with a hostile takeover
by the company. In 2016, Vivendi used this exact strategy to buy the mobile game developer Gameloft, which was previously owned by the Guillemot family. Now, they were coming for Ubisoft itself. After months of Vivendi buying their stock and slowly approaching that 30% mark, Yves had to do something. He rallied his family, business partners, and other Canadian companies to help save Ubisoft by buying as many shares as possible. The Guillemot family managed to retain ownership of Ubisoft with help from esteemed organizations like Ontario Teachers, who purchased over 3 million shares. Eventually, Vivendi relented, selling off all the shares they had bought. However, Ubisoft now had a new stakeholder, a little-known investor called Tencent. After escaping Vivendi's...
One of the worst, like I've been saying it for a while, like Tencent and all these Chinese and other companies, Saudi Arabian companies, buying out Western gaming industries is not a good thing. It's not going to create a better environment. It's not going to create something, new. It's not saving gaming, right? Once they have full control, they will start making the games that they want versus what the buyer wants. It'll just be a whole new situation. Still wish Massive was owned by literally anybody else. Well, I mean, yeah.
Hostile takeover, Yves Guillemot now had a new problem on his hands. Tons of new investors. It was his job to keep them all happy, and to do so, Ubisoft needed to keep making money. Thankfully, Yves had a wonderful vision, one everyone was sure to love: blockchain gaming. Rather than just focusing on making more high-quality AAA games, as was Ubisoft's bread and butter, Yves decided that the blockchain would be the next major.
Yeah, this was another thing that I've talked about before. Like when people look at the history of Ubisoft, they fail to mention like they were one of the ones that were going hard into blockchain technology. And it didn't pan out for anybody. Like NFTs and all that stuff died off. It fell so hard.
Major innovation. Under his leadership,
they just wanted to monetize gaming. They don't care about making a good game. Yeah, that's what it ended up becoming, right? They were known for like revolutionizing games and making banger after banger and doing a great job. And then it became what they are today, the dying gaming company that the anti-wokes like to say is proof that their games are not that their games, proof that that wokeness is killing games. Get woke, grow broke, right?
Ubisoft became a founding member of the Blockchain Game Alliance, a group dedicated to promoting blockchain technology in gaming. Ubisoft didn't just want to explore the idea, they wanted to lead the charge. This led to the creation of Ubisoft Quartz, a platform dedicated to buying and selling cosmetics as blockchain assets, which would give players true ownership.
I remember this. This was like, did they sell any of these?
Over their digital items. The response? Immediate backlash. Gamers saw it for what it was, a thinly veiled monetization scheme rather than something that would actually add to their gaming experience. The announcement trailer for Ubisoft Quartz was flooded with dislikes, and many players dismissed it as Ubisoft jumping on yet another trend no one wanted. But Ubisoft wasn't done. They didn't just want to add NFTs to their existing games, they wanted to create games utilizing blockchain technology. The company poured resources into multiple crypto gaming startups and even launched their own blockchain networking company.
But it's woke games that are the problem, right? Not all these mistakes that they're constantly making to to the detriment of their, fans. Every time they did something like this, they took, backlash for it, and then they just completely ignored the backlash, right? Anti-woke think Ubisoft is AC Black Flags, literally nothing happened. AC Shadows killed the company. Yeah, it is such a simple look. Like look at all the problems that we've already seen coming out with Ubisoft. It was a long time ago when they started dropping, and they just decided, you know what? We're going to keep going down.
Company. While other publishers cautiously backed away from NFTs after the crypto bubble collapsed, Ubisoft doubled down. Ubisoft quietly released an NFT game in 2024 to very, very muted reception. Still, Ubisoft could afford to take these kinds of risks. Their main franchises, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, were selling tons and tons of copies. But behind the scenes, things were starting to fall apart. Several games were stuck in development hell. Allegations against high-ranking Ubisoft employees were coming out of the woodwork. And Yves, trying to fix the company and make things right, ended up doing the exact opposite and steering Ubisoft into a nosedive from which it would never pull out. The first problem came courtesy of one of Ubisoft's subsidiary studios. In 2011, Ubisoft acquired the free-to-play mobile game developer Owliant, which was best known for its horse breeding simulator, Horse, that attracted more than 2 million monthly users. Not long after the acquisition by Ubisoft, Ouliant promoted a new CEO in 2014, a man by the name of Charlie Guillemot, aka Yves Guillemot's son. Obviously, coming fresh out of grad school and being promoted to the head of a studio owned by your father isn't gonna sit well with most of your coworkers, but nepotism aside, it seemed Charlie did a fine job heading up the studio. Wanting to take advantage of the mobile games market, in 2018, Ouliant was tasked with creating a mobile action RPG called Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. It seemed like it would be a guaranteed hit. The only way they could mess it up is if they did something stupid. And then they did something stupid. In 2020, the team released a cinematic trailer for the game. In it, the bad guys were revealed to be an organization called Umbra, a terrorist group who hijack protests and civil unrest to further their agenda for world domination. Pretty standard stuff, except for one thing. The organization's logo was a raised fist, which looked identical to the one used by the Black Lives Matter movement.
This is another one that I didn't know about, and it's just hilarious. Like, what were they thinking when looking at this? Like, you still have to look at the outside world and realize that, hey, some of these things might be bad choices. I'm still surprised one of those brothers are coming right back. Yeah, I know. It surprises me too that they still want to keep one of the brothers in. Like, he's going to do something to change it.
Which was in full swing when this trailer released. Ubisoft was basically calling the BLM protesters terrorists. Not only that, they were the main enemy in the game, so you, the player, get to be a military enforcer shooting at human rights activists. Needless to say, the backlash was immense. Ubisoft immediately issued an apology, removing all raised fist iconography from the game.
This seems like a common thing with them too, having to issue apologies for the things that they do.
But this snafu was just the start of a wave of bad press for Ubisoft. In the following months, news would break surrounding a slew of internal controversies that reached to the highest levels of the company. Ashraf Ismail, the creative director for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, was fired over an extramarital relationship with the streamer he met in 2017. Maxime Belland, Tommy Francois, and Serge Hascoët, the company's editorial chief, were accused of verbal and physical abuse, particularly towards female employees.
Becoming a tale as old as time. Gaming companies sexually harassing people. I wonder if there was like a breast milk epidemic too. Like maybe they hired Grums at some point.
Response, Yves put out a statement assuring the public that Ubisoft was committed to creating a safe work environment and making good on inclusive practices. But others at the company felt that the situation wasn't handled well. The result was a mass exodus of veteran game developers. Among those leaving the company was Yanni Malat, head of Ubisoft Canada, whose role would be taken on by Yves personally, essentially giving him full control of the company. Whether the employees left due to low pay, a lack of faith in the company's creative direction, or just disgust over the growing pile of controversies, Ubisoft's once hardened team of veteran developers was quickly being replaced by greenhorns. For a few of Ubisoft's AAA titles, up to 50% of the development team was made up of employees working on a game for the first time. With so much turmoil and his newly found position of power, Yves decided it was time to shake things up. In a 2021 earnings call,
it's always hard if it's a fully new development team because you never would know what's going to come out of it. I always think of Mass Effect Andromeda with that, where the main team was put on Anthem, but this new side team was created to work on Mass Effect, one of their most popular franchises, and it did not go well at launch. Mass Effect Andromeda was a mess. And they did do things that I enjoyed, BioWare did do things that I enjoyed, like the combat and things like that was an improvement, in my opinion, over the original Mass Effect. It was cool ideas. It just, didn't work out.
Ubisoft CFO, Frédéric Duguay, made a strange statement. Ubisoft was officially stepping back from AAA games. Quote, "We are moving on from our prior comment regarding releasing 3 to 4 premium AAAs per year. Additionally, we are building our high-end free-to-play games to be trending towards AAA ambitions over the long term." For a company that once prided itself on large-scale, innovative games, this marked a significant turning point, focusing on free-to-play mobile games instead. Soon after this strategic pivot, Ubisoft announced mobile versions for its biggest franchises. Assassin's Creed, The Division, and Rainbow Six were the first games to go mobile. The company even partnered with Netflix to develop 3 exclusive mobile games, further reinforcing its commitment to the mobile market. Ubisoft also launched a new mobile app for their game store and
This is also something that was like very, very common. Was it around this same time that Blizzard was made the the official announcement of the mobile game that no one wanted to, play, that no one wanted to talk about, or like doing it in the West was a complete misstep.
launcher, Ubisoft Connect. Ubisoft Connect was the company's answer to Steam way back in 2009. Unfortunately, compared to Steam, Ubisoft Connect was a pile of junk. It's slow, it's buggy, every time you turn it on, 1,000 pop-ups explode all over your desktop. And despite years of users complaining about its unfriendly features and expressing their frustration at Ubisoft games being exclusively available through this terrible launcher, Ubisoft has continued pushing out features that absolutely no one asked for. This mobile app, which promised to enhance player experience with more services and social features, was just another half-baked idea from Eve hoping to copy trends from Xbox Live and PSN. However, unlike those platforms, no one was using Ubisoft Connect for its social features. So why did it need an app in the first
That's right. Don't you guys have phones?
place? Between blockchain investments, mobile gaming, and Ubisoft Connect, Ubisoft's direction under Eve was clear. Chase emerging trends, even if it means giving up what made the company great in the first place. 2024 was the worst year in Ubisoft's history. There were so many failed games, cancelled projects, and controversies that we can't even list them all in this video. The year started off with game director Philippe Tremblay going on record saying people should, quote, get comfortable not owning their games.
Yeah,
oh
man, I remember this. And we still have CEOs doing that today. What was it? God, fucking Jeff Bezos just said, well, if you can't afford your computer, you can always rent it from us. Like, really? Is that what we're we're about? That's what we're trying to do? Anti-consumer?
Was in reference to Ubisoft's increased focus on live service game subscriptions and was kind of an excuse for why Ubisoft had a reputation for releasing unfinished games. The sentiment didn't sit well with the gaming community. Baldur's Gate 3's publishing director called out Ubisoft for their focus on selling subscriptions to games rather than focusing on actually making the games. The crux of the argument wasn't against live service games per se, but rather Ubisoft's inability to put out a finished game on release day. Which brings us to Ubisoft's first major release of 2024, the self-proclaimed first quadruple A game, Skull and Bones.
Ooh.
When Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed Black Flag,
this one I've been talking about. This one was like a big downfall for them, where it was just terrible. Like, it was in development hell for so, he's going to say how many years, development hell for so long. There's government involvement, so they have to do stuff with the game. Oh, that looks really good. Let's go with that. Let's empower some people. I mean, it was bad choice after bad choice. When all they had to do was make Black Flag 2 or Black Flag without the Assassin's Creed.
Way back in 2012, it was clear that pirates were a moneymaker. Not one to let an opportunity slip away, Eve ordered Ubisoft to start work on another pirate game immediately and quickly. Unfortunately, that turned out to be not very quick at all. Development of the game that would eventually become Skull and Bones lasted more than 11 years. The game was initially given to Ubisoft Singapore, the team behind the excellent ship-based combat from AC Black Flag, but as development went on, the game went through countless iterations and identity crises. First, the game was supposed to be a sequel to AC Black Flag, which honestly would have been all they needed to make fans happy. But then they pivoted, deciding on a pirate MMO instead, which is pretty cool. I could see this working out for them, and I can't wait to see what— oh, hold on, we're pivoting again? to a 5v5 arena shooter but with pirate ships? What the hell is this game? As the years progressed, different project leads were brought in who would tell the team to either start over from scratch or radically overhaul their vision, only to be replaced not long after by another project lead who would want to start over again. The revolving door of directionless management was expensive, and to keep the ship afloat, Ubisoft secured funding from the Singaporean government. In 2021,
Yeah, this is where it went wrong, having to, secure funding from the Singaporean government. It's just not, it wasn't a good idea. It was never going to be a good idea for them. And it made them, it stuck them to the government because the government expects to get some kind of return on this.
it finally seemed like the game was going to come out, and Ubisoft touted Skull and Bones.
I wish Ubisoft hadn't gone all in open world and live services. They're an easy company to crap on, but their linear titles are so good. Yeah, I agree. It became kind of a joke where like the world's bigger, but then there was nothing to do. Even in Assassin's Creed Shadows, there's talk about how there's just nothing to do in the game besides repeat the same couple of mission types.
As the first ever quadruple A game. This was a big claim, but with 8 years in development and $120 million spent, this game had to be good, right? No other games that received countless delays and inscrutable hype ever failed to live up to expectations.
Well, maybe.
Plus, people were really excited to see what kind of game they decided to make after all those years under construction. Can you guess what they came up with? Drumroll please. An open world live service game. Who could have seen that coming? It took Ubisoft until 2024 to finally release, and within hours, it was being brutalized by the internet.
Skull and Bones isn't the things Ubisoft itself said it would be at various points in its storied development.
Skull and Bones, to me, doesn't feel like something worth $70 and a decade of waiting.
Holy shit, Flop. Do you see this menu?
I'm gonna prank the employees, restarts the project for the 5th time. They do it on April Fools, but it's not actually an April Fool's joke. When that last Prince of Persia came out, it was really good. Are you talking about the recent one that's the side scroller, kind of going back to the original idea?
This is a quad A menu.
In comparison to what we would expect from a triple A game, let alone this ridiculous quadruple A label, Skull and Bones is a colossal failure.
The game, somehow, was a regression from AC Black Flag back in 2013. The character animations looked worse. The water looked worse. The really fun shipboarding mechanic from Black Flag was reduced to a freaking cutscene.
How is it possible that it went back this much? This is 11 years ago.
Which is funny because they still had that jumping on ships in the Roman one. What's the name of the fucking Roman one? I don't remember. But anyway, you know which one I'm saying. You know which one I'm saying. And it's, they all they had to do, it was so easy. It would have been such a, big launch. They could have even milked it with multiple games, but instead, nope, we got to go live service. We got to get that live service bag.
Naval combat, the thing that was supposed to be the backbone of the game, was clunkier and less fun than other pirate games on the market. The game was floundering, and as you'd expect, Ubisoft was ready to shut the project down. Except, the game's development was supported by the Singaporean government. And since they helped pay for a live service game, Skull and Bones was gonna keep sailing until their contract is fulfilled. But this was just the start of 2024. In May, Ubisoft broke records with the release of X Defiant. The free-to-play first-person shooter had 1 million users within 2 hours of launch and 2 million within 48 hours. It was one of the best launch days in gaming history. Fortunately,
is this one of the ones that the anti-woke touted? I don't remember. I know there was one that had like a bunch of hot chicks and stuff like that, and it ended up failing, but no, it wasn't. Thanks. I didn't. And this is why Sea of Thieves is the only online pirate experience worth a damn. I've never had a chance to play it because none of my buddies were playing it when I had a chance to. So that's where we are. X Defiant's biggest issue was it didn't come to Steam. Ooh, yeah, that's a little rough around the edges when that happens.
This is Ubisoft we're talking about. The game looked great, but under the surface, there really wasn't much there. Players would come and try it for a few hours, realize there was nothing special about it, and never pick the game up again. Still, despite the dwindling player count, X Defiant's director assured fans that they intended to stay the course and keep the game alive.
12 seconds later.
Let's see what it says here. I'm an unfortunate here to announce that today the X Defiant will be shutting down. Yay! What a surprise! Starting today, December 3rd, 2024, new downloads and player registrations will be no longer available.
Well, that was a lie. Alright, let's move on to the next failure. In 2021, Ubisoft was gifted a very special opportunity. Since 2013, no publisher other than Electronic Arts had been given access to the IP, so this was a big deal. Ubisoft knew
Star Wars in a video game is like, it could be such a just easy win, especially with people pawning over the game that never came to be. Like, they had the opportunity here again. All they had to do was not make it suck.
that if any game had the potential to get things back on track, it would be this one. So, they brought on Julian Garrity, the man responsible for The Division, as creative director, writers from Far Cry 5 and Watch Dogs, and several other heavy hitters. All in all, the development for the game involved more than 11 studios and 600 people. To celebrate the momentous occasion, Ubisoft wanted to milk the Star Wars brand for all it was worth. So they announced 2 deluxe versions of the game, which would cost $110 and $130 respectively. These versions included vehicle cosmetics, early access to the game, a free season's pass, and access to a special mission featuring Jabba the Hutt. I don't know.
What a terrible, thing to do, where you just, hey, guess what? You're gonna pay for missions that we made and cut out of the main game.
How about you? But back in my day, spending $130 on a special edition of a video game would come with like a statue of the characters, a Master Chief helmet, night vision goggles, not just some digital bonus crap, and especially not a bonus level that was intentionally cut from the game and sold back to me. It's so shady. But things got worse when the game actually released. It was a buggy mess. The missions were frustrating, and the open world, which they were so excited to share, was more or less empty. When the game released on Steam a little bit later in 2024, it peaked at 834 players. Sure, most players already bought the game in the Ubisoft store, but not even 1,000 concurrent players for a Star Wars game? What has the world come to? The end result was Ubisoft closing the studio that was responsible for the game in early 2025.
Yeah, it's a single player game that requires internet connection. That was such a contention back in the day when that started happening. It was like, oh, we need it to have internet connection for this reason or that reason. And then given what happened to the crew, yeah, he's going to bring that up here too.
Remember that comment about players getting comfortable not owning their games? Well, it came back to bite Ubisoft towards the end of 2024. Ubisoft made the decision to delist their 2014 open world racing game, The Crew, but Ubisoft took it a step further by preventing the game from being played at all, even by those who owned physical copies. This really didn't sit well with 2 fans of the game, and they filed a lawsuit against Ubisoft, which has yet to be settled. All of this is to say, in 2024, the company was in a really bad place. If you were a shareholder in Ubisoft, you might be a little bit concerned, and rightly so, because there was some seriously shady stuff happening behind closed doors. In 2022, Tencent purchased 49.9% of the shares in Guillemot Brothers Limited, suggesting that the two were getting pretty close. In mid-2024, a minority shareholder in Ubisoft, AJ Investment, published an open letter in which they accused the Guillemot family of conspiring against shareholders to take Ubisoft private and calling for Yves to step down as company CEO. This was followed by rumors of a buyout from Tencent, only furthering suspicions of
like emoji. If you're an Ubisoft shareholder, you're not concerned. You're on suicide watch. Oh, I mean, I can't deny that, right? Uh-oh.
Collusion between the two parties. On top of this, all the failed games, costly ventures into the mobile and blockchain sphere, and countless other flops brought Ubisoft's share price down from 80 euros in 2021 to 13 euros in 2024. That's more than a 70% decline in just 3 years. Things could not be more dire, but thankfully, Ubisoft had a chance at redemption on the horizon. It was an Assassin's Creed game taking place in Japan, something fans had been asking for years, and it could be the saving grace Ubisoft and the Guillemot family had been hoping for. But
Could
leading
be.
up to the release of Assassin's Creed,
And I still hold by the factor that this game wouldn't have saved them from, the Tencent stuff. I think it did save them from completely getting bought out by Tencent, but it definitely didn't, it was never going to be that way.
Shadows, things didn't go so smoothly. It would be an understatement to say that this has been a troubled project, as the game has faced what could be only described as a never-ending series of controversies, many of which Ubisoft brought upon themselves. When the cinematic trailer for this game came out, there were people arguing that it was a cool take on a niche part of Japanese history, but some were worried about the creative liberties the devs were taking when telling the story. Moving on from the fact that some people were a little bit upset about a black samurai, the game also had
Upsetty
many
spaghetti.
historical inaccuracies, including Chinese architecture for one of its trailers.
This is a weird thing too, because Ubisoft games were known for trying to be close to history. Yeah, of course they take liberties. That's well known. But I remember old Ubisoft games having like areas you could go and it would tell you history and things about that time period. I enjoy. It was like the one of the few times that I enjoyed looking for the side mechanics just to get something new.
Assets pulled from a Japanese reenactment group without their permission, and a number of other issues. Many on the internet expressed frustration with the game's depiction of feudal Japan, leading to the development team issuing an apology and saying the game is not intended to be a factual representation of history, but instead a quote, compelling historical fiction. Now, I get it. It is technically a historical fiction. This caveat is why games like Ninja Gaiden and Sekiro don't get lampooned for misrepresenting Japanese history, but Assassin's Creed is a franchise that famously prides itself on getting things right. The whole franchise is built on a reputation of being mostly historically accurate. Doing things like 3D scanning the interior of Notre Dame to get every brick correct, or following the layout of ancient Rome down to a T, Assassin's Creed games have a much higher bar than most other video games, and should be pretty strict with their representation of culture and historical accuracy. In their apology, Ubisoft did emphasize their collaboration with external consultants and historians, but quote, despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials have caused concern within the Japanese community. For this, we sincerely apologize. But that didn't stop them from collaborating with Pure Arts to create an Assassin's Creed Shadows statue featuring a one-legged Torii gate.
This was a really bad move. Like it's unbelievable that they thought this was going to be like a good thing to do. No, they didn't check with anybody over this. It was just like, we're going to do this. That would be a good movie series, Ubisoft corporate fall. That would be a good one. Man, if I was a CEO, I would have yelled at everyone at that point. Yeah, you're kind of in control of it, and you're giving.
Many said
you're just causing trouble after trouble, controversy after controversy.
This was offensive. Torii gates are found close to religious shrines all over Japan to indicate a boundary separating the human world and the sacred. The one-legged Torii gate has a significant meaning of its own, but one of the most famous examples can be found at the Sano Shrine in Nagasaki, located 900 meters from the site of the atomic bomb drop. Needless to say, it's not the smartest thing to include on a toy, although it did get pulled from shelves. Still, there was still some hope that the game would do well, and if Ubisoft was going to get their win, it needed to come now. One more failed game, and it would be the end of Eve and his brothers at the helm of the company. But could Assassin's Creed Shadows do it? Did all the controversy turn people off of buying the game altogether? After numerous delays pushing the game's release into 2025, it finally released on March 20th. And the result was it did pretty well. It actually did well. Basically what we'd expect from a new Assassin's Creed game. The question is, was it enough to turn the tides for Ubisoft? Coming into 2025, here's what we know. Despite the success of AC Shadows, one of the studios that developed the game, Ubisoft Leamington, announced that they would be closing their doors on April 4th, which is not a good sign for Ubisoft. For the rest of the company, the shareholders are upset. Stock prices have dropped significantly and show no signs of recovering. At one point, Tencent wanted to buy the company, but under the stipulation that Yves Guillemot stepped down from his position as CEO. The Guillemot family said no, but Tencent
They knew, even China knew that he was ruining the company. Like, we need to get this guy out.
has really wanted Ubisoft for many years, so they found a compromise. Ubisoft and Tencent would create a new company which would be in charge of Ubisoft's existing money-making IPs, Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry, as well as new IPs in the future. This company would have completely new management running the show, kicking up royalties to Ubisoft in exchange for their autonomy. 75% of the company will be owned by Ubisoft and 25% by Tencent. In addition, Tencent put up $1.25 billion as a cash injection with assurances of getting their money back in case things start going bad. But what does
Do you notice something about everything as we go through here? None of that woke stuff that's in there is mentioned. No one's saying that, like, oh, it was woke that did it. They chose to do, you know, gay and black characters. They do mention the controversy, which was a big deal for that game. And I think you can give some merits to the Yasuke stuff, right? Whether he's a actual public figure, choosing him over maybe other types. But but you can't really say everything is woke and it be true.
this mean for gamers? Well, new management will hopefully mean better games in the future. Ubisoft staff and shareholders have wanted the Guillemot family out for a while, so hopefully the company will have a new creative direction, which will be significantly better than it has been over the past few years. With this cash injection, Ubisoft has some runway to get their affairs in order. Hopefully they can restructure the company to be profitable in the future or risk folding completely. Regardless, we'll have to.
And you see where he's really talking about they still have a chance to turn around. Like this 10-cent deal could turn around good, or could do well in turning around their franchise, especially if they start focusing on the things that made them popular in the past. Obviously not the open world thing. I think open world is not dying, but it's just so overdone that people don't want that anymore unless it's in certain cases.
To wait and see what decisions come next for Ubisoft and the Guillemot family.
All right. Let's pause this here.
A promising sci-fi MMO plagued with poor decision.
Yeah, we like Wicked Wiz, but boop. Let's move on to our next video. So, open world is a symptom of chasing GTA money, just like the live services is a symptom of chasing Fortnite money. We need more blue ocean strategy in games. Blue Ocean, is that that one? I don't know. Let's see here. Can never remember. Well, I think where Ubisoft really started to go wrong is one thing that I think would have helped is if they would have found ways to improve the stealth mechanics of the game, the AI and those stealth mechanics. The traversing in the game was already great, but maybe other avenues that you could have gone down versus kind of making the same game over and over again. All right. So next is our female pick me, our fake redhead. Everyone loves her because she's got such a great personality with her, droning on voice. Did he say Assassin's Creed Shadow is a success? He must be woke, right? And the whole point is yeah, it's what all of us have been saying ahead of time. It was a success in the terms that it was making money. It was not a success in the terms that it was going to pull, Ubisoft out of debt to be able to be their own company again. They still needed that injection for it to go through. And so anyway, we've listened to the history of Ubisoft. I want to see what Vara has to say that's going to improve my thought process on it. Hold on, her head isn't showing all the way. I need to change that. Boop 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 boop. Window capture. Yeah, we want all of your head in there. There we go. There we go. And lock it back. All right, so let's begin with Vara and her 15-minute video. Oh, excuse me, not even 15. This was 10 minutes.
Just last week, we found out that Ubisoft was shutting down an Assassin's Creed studio, and now it looks like the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and Star Wars Outlaws studio is going through some major shakeups because they are facing major layoffs, and it's not looking good for Ubisoft. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create,
maybe she'll surprise
in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube.
That is a great point, Vara. Very great point. If you're sitting here today and watching the content and you haven't liked the stream, please like the stream. It's just one little button, just the use of your finger helps build my channel and grow it a little bit as we are on our road to 500. The next goal is 200. So help me get there and help me, become a little bit bigger so that I can have more people in here to talk to. If you're super generous, you can always subscribe and hit that notification bell so that we can, you can know when I'm going live. You can also go into our Discord. I announce it there. And on top of it, we have a channel called Feed the Pig where you can give me ideas. You can give me things that you think I might like to watch. So, thank you so much for just being here. Let's keep going.
Memberships. Now, yes, a lot of companies in this industry are going through major changes. They overhired for several years in a row. They are canceling projects, and that means that they do not need as many employees. It's not even just happening in video games, but video games are being hit extremely hard, even though layoffs were down in 2025 versus 2024. But now it looks like Ubisoft is going through
that's some That's some good analysis, right? Yeah, we have been seeing that. There's a lot of the stuff around the what was it called, the inflation of employees during the COVID times and things like that, and now they're suffering from it because they couldn't predict that that these changes would happen, right?
Round of layoffs for 2026, just 2 weeks into the new year. So it says
he kind of like a less grating Melanie Mack. Yeah, I could say that. She just kind of talks and drones on, which there's nothing wrong with that per se. I don't think I have the greatest voice in the world, but yeah, I could see that. She doesn't say as many slurs either, you could say, which I don't know if that makes her less based or more based.
Voluntary career transition program at Ubisoft's massive studio, announced in October 2025, apparently wasn't enough to get the job done, and so now Ubisoft is going back to the old-fashioned way of doing things by simply laying people off. Earlier today, we informed all employees in our Swedish studios, Massive Entertainment in Ubisoft Stockholm, about a proposed organizational restructure that may affect approximately 55 roles across these two locations. This restructure follows the completion of the voluntary leave program launched
I know
during
what you
the
were
fall
saying.
of 2025,
I just went with
a
it.
finalized long-term roadmap, and a completed staffing and appointment process, which together have provided clear visibility into the structure and capacity required to support the two studios' work and sustainability over time. Now, to me, this is just PR speak. They want to lay people off. They want to let people go. And so they tried this voluntary career transition program to make it seem like a softer blow, but that didn't work. So now they have to get rid of even more people.
I think a lot of that is there are things that they have to do legally before they just start laying people off, right? There's steps that they have to take. And I can't confirm that that's one of them, but it is something that happens. That's why you hear about like payouts for so much time and things like that. You can't just mass fire people on the spot anymore.
And Ubisoft is struggling right now. They recently faced the largest hack in the history of the video game industry, if all of the rumors and reports are correct. And by the way, they were hacked 3 times, which is insane. You have the multiple games releasing and being financial failures. Skull and Bones was a quadruple A failure. They're even calling Assassin's Creed Shadows a quadruple A game now, and of course that didn't seem to
Did they? I haven't seen them call it a AAA game.
Goals. They haven't exactly said what they were. It's not like we'll ever fully know, but they talked about player counts and not actual sales. But
fun fact, one of the games that the anti-wokes, we're talking about, we're getting through it. God dang it, what's his name? Lords of the Fallen tried to use player counts to make his game seem like it sold better than other games in the market. So yeah, that's kind of a thing that a lot of people are doing. I'll banish this one and we'll take this one. So
you have Star Wars Outlaws, which is Massive Entertainment, who's now going through these layoffs that underperformed, and they had put the most money they ever had towards its marketing budget. And then X Defiant was supposed to be the Call of Duty killer, and well, the only thing that died was X Defiant. Though at the end of the day, am I shocked to hear that this is happening? No. It's not just about the size of a team or the amount of money you put towards a game. It's about the passion, it's about the drive, it's about the focus within these studios. If you have hundreds of people working on tons of different little things, then nothing ever feels fleshed out. Then all of the systems feel dull, mediocre, the world doesn't feel alive. And when you hire a bunch of juniors and you're not hiring back veteran developers, yeah, it just turns out to be a string of mediocre games, and Ubisoft is known for their mediocrity. At this point, that's why they're handing off series like Assassin's Creed to their joint venture with Tencent, the Vantage Studio.
Well, okay, they're not handing off their Assassin's Creed to the joint venture. They are putting them into it and starting a new team to focus on those games, but I wouldn't call that a handoff. They still own the games completely.
Studios deal is massive, and we really haven't heard anything about it. But yeah, I mean, now Massive Entertainment, who is the developer of the Division games, as well as Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, is going through these layoffs, and Ubisoft Stockholm is currently working on an unannounced game, and Ubisoft said the long-term direction for both studios will not be impacted by the layoffs. So we don't know exactly how many employees they have in total at these two studios. Either way, though, the Division is, I don't want to necessarily say dead, it's just in a downtime right now. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora has been a nightmare since day one. They put a lot of money into that game and it didn't do anything. I know with Fire and Ash's release, it quadrupled.
That I don't know about. I didn't look at that particular game. I probably should have before we came here, tier 2, or before I came and watched this. But so I don't know if that game. You can tell me in the chat if that game was doing well, mediocre, or just plain sucks.
In player counts, but it went up to like 13,000 players, which it still isn't very good. And then Star Wars Outlaws was a game that underperformed. It is a game that a lot of people were unimpressed with. It was buggy and broken at release. They have released DLC, but that
I'm gonna give her this. So far, I haven't heard her say woke or anything like that, kind of pandering to that anti-woke crowd. So I'll give you kudos for that.
DLC has failed to bring people back to the game, and overall their experiences are forgettable. And I'm not sad that Ubisoft is facing all of this backlash and really facing all of these problems, because for years now they have ignored our requests, they have ignored their customers, and
they've probably seen a boost in sales for the game is $10 at Walmart. And the repack of the game of the expansion is 30 to 40. Okay. Well, yeah. People, I think they're going to start learning that people aren't going to buy these $60, $70 games anymore. It's just too much money for the average person.
Well, they are just facing the consequences of their own actions at this point. Like I said, though, Ubisoft had just shut down an Assassin's Creed Rebellion developer, the Halifax studio, just weeks after it unionized. Ubisoft shut it down after 61 of the 71 workers voted to unionize. Now, there are people that believe it is because of the unionization. I don't necessarily know if I fully believe that, because they clearly are going through a lot of layoffs right now. I have never really heard anything positive about Assassin's Creed Rebellion, which is a mobile game, and so it seems like they were just paying a bunch of people a bunch of money to do a bunch of nothing. It says, though, this comes 3 weeks after the 61 employees voted to unionize with the Game and Media Workers Guild of Canada, which is itself part of the CWA, or Communications Workers of America and Canada. It says that Ubisoft has claimed that the closure.
Historically, though, Ubisoft has always been quick to go on sale. That's probably pretty true. The 360 era, I would wait for a Black Friday because you could always get the game for half off or less. Okay.
Is unrelated to the union and is instead a part of its larger restructuring and cost-saving efforts. Now, I don't believe anything Ubisoft says. Maybe they saw them unionizing and went, yeah, we need to get rid of them as quickly as possible. Either way, though, these are some major issues and also major changes at this company. Gamers are talking about this on social media, saying not every position in a gaming studio has the same importance. It is bad for the employee indeed. However, the choices between saving the company and most of the jobs or slimming down the company. Damn, that's awful. There are some people who are saying, oh my gosh, hope these talented devs get picked up quickly by a better studio. These developers clearly are not talented because they're not making games that people want, or else Ubisoft would be making enough money.
Oh, hold on. Not making games that people want doesn't mean the developers are not talented, right? Ubisoft, or Assassin's Creed Shadow was a, beautiful game in the way that it looked. And the problem is the features that are being chosen for it and stuff like that are not going well. The combat looked great. It didn't look, broken. It didn't seem that there was much that looked broken in that game. It's this idea that we've turned on developers for it when it's the higher ups that are making these choices that the developers have to deal with. It's just been brain dead, right? The whole thing used to be, all right, we don't want these, these guys in power, these CEOs that don't care about games. They just say what they want and force people to make what they want. That's my problem with other gamers. They are so entitled more than the devs. Yeah, absolutely.
To keep them around, and they would be viewed as valuable employees. None of the games they've been making have been positive. The last Division game came and went. You have Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which had awful player counts, and it wasn't a great experience overall, very mid-game. And then Star Wars Outlaws was mediocre as hell, and it was buggy and broken at release. And I've heard now that with Outlaws they fixed it up, but I still can't believe that they felt that it was acceptable to release it in the state that they did. Shit games that flopped, so no surprise here. In the great words of the great Roach King himself, welcome home. Avatar sucked, and they've been...
Jesus Christ. Asmon reference.
living off the Division 2 for over 6 years. The Avatar and Division 2s were both flops, and actually, all of these games were flops. I know this isn't a brand new article, but it lays out the facts. Ubisoft admits Star Wars Outlaws underperformed, despite solid ratings and user scores across the first-party and Epic stores that reflect an immersive and authentic Star Wars universe. Star Wars Outlaws' initial sales proved softer than expected, Ubisoft said. In response to player feedback, Ubisoft's development teams are currently fully mobilized to swiftly implement a series of updates to polish and improve the player experience in order to engage a larger audience during the holiday season to position Star Wars Outlaws as a strong long-term performer. And I played it. I couldn't even finish it because the main quest was bugged and I could not progress past that point. Of course, I'm not going to 100% the side quest. I didn't like the game enough to do that, but it's just so disappointing that a game people were excited for released in such a bad state. But I was told Assassin's Creed Shadows was a hit and that it owned the chuds. Well, Avatar was trash and the Division is ancient, so it makes sense. It's unfortunate.
Wait, who said that it owned the chuds? There's always this thing that they're saying that people owned the chuds, and then they pull up an account with 4 likes from an account that's got 3 followers, and that's oh look, they're owning the chuds, or they're saying they're gonna own the chuds, and look, we're right.
That they're getting laid off, but Avatar sucked. And yeah, I always say this, I don't revel in the fact that people are losing their jobs, but if you did a better job, you would still have that job. So yeah, I will be keeping my eye.
This is not true. There was a game that recently came out. I forget which company was in charge of the dev company. I forget the name of the actual company. It was Hi-Fi Rush or something like that. Was a good, was a great success. It was touted as being an awesome game, and yet they still shut down the company. There is no, good game doesn't determine if they're going to keep you or not. Ubisoft was going to have to always slim down the company because all of these companies have been bloated. It sucks for the people losing their jobs. Oh, Tango Game Workshops did Hi-Fi Rush. That's who it was. Yeah, and they still canned them for it. I have 9 followers on X, and I live rent-free in Eric's head. Eric is doing bad. A little off-topic thing, he is not doing well on X. His numbers have dropped. His likes have dropped. He's really not that relevant anymore.
Eye on Ubisoft as I usually do, but now they're laying off even more employees. One's behind the flops of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Star Wars Outlaws, and that's following the Assassin's Creed Rebellion layoffs, and things are not looking good for them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.
All right, home. Here's what I actually have to say. I'm fairly positive on this video.
Off my arms and legs. You know, they.
Thank you. Yes, I know. 500 man stat. She didn't go into like they're woke. She didn't do all the normal talking points that go into it. And I think with her, we're starting to see that same shift we're seeing in some of the other anti-wokers, where they're moving away from the anti-woke narrative because they know it's over. And I think she is one of them. I'll have to watch some more videos on her because she has some that sound super woke. But yeah, that wasn't terrible by any means. I still think there's things that she just doesn't understand about the gaming industry, you know, the history of everything that's happened. Yeah, the outrage machine is dying. I agree. I still don't think she understands the gaming industry fully and some of the things that she was saying, but definitely not as bad as my is my analysis, my little guess of what was in it. We'll say. So good video, or good on Vara to not completely just go woke, go broke with it like she's done in the past. Maybe she's turning a new leaf. But next on the chopping block is going to be a friend of the channel, a guy we have had, he's been in chat before. We've talked back and forth. Maybe one day I'll do a collab with him or invite him on, and that is Otterly Noah. And I thought this video he had coming up was
Melanie
interesting.
Mack is coming under a lot of fire for.
It's the how the anti-woke culture purposefully misappropriates media hunting grifty bears, his new thing. So what do I think of Be My Horde? I like it. It's still very much just a survivor game. I think what I like about it is the zombie horde stuff, but for me that's a preference, right? I like necromancers. I like to raise everyone from the dead, and I think it's a good little unique take on it. Nothing groundbreaking, I think, for me. So it's a nice game that I can sit and just play, right? Go through here, and it is fairly challenging. I've been working on this second level now for a while, and I'm not even getting really close to getting to the boss to be able to beat him, and that's just like ×3.
Taking a stand against the LGBTQ propaganda.
Oh, so anyway, let's pull up Otterly Noah. Boop. And the first person he has on screen is JDA. I don't know if our buddy Egad is in the chat, but I know he is, friends with JDA and has, I want to say swept, but very much, talked positively of him and say things like, he's not who he is in there. I only played Vampire Survivor. Might check out Megabonk too. Megabonk isn't one that I've played. That may be one that I need to check out as well. Just because, hey, you could always use one of these little games to just play. Hey, there he is, Egad. That's right. That's what you usually say, is he's performative, but that's how the internet works. Yeah, I agree. You look at my X account, and I can be pretty performative in the things that I say. But I still have my problems with him and the way in his takes in some of those games. But that's how it is. My main gripe with Survivor games is how the meta progression upgrades trivialize the game. Yeah, I agree with that. There's a point where like I'm just eventually, when I level up that little area that I'm leveling up in, I'm going to get strong enough to beat the level. So that's not I'm not questioning that. You're not allowed to have problems with JDA. You're supposed to agree with everything he says. Absolutely. I'm sorry. I don't want to step out of line with that.
Propaganda in every.
All right. So we're going to start this Otterly Noah video and see what he says. His opinions are. I like watching him because I don't always agree with everything he says. I'm definitely more right-leaning than the vast majority of people that are, against the anti-wokers, I think. So it's always interesting to have someone that has that lefty anti-woke, position and be able to break down their arguments and what I think is positive and what I think is not.
Everything in the culture war. It's my opinion that everything woke just turns into crap. And that's exactly what happened with the Wachowski brothers. They, of course, made The Matrix, wrote and directed it. Now, yesterday on the channel, we covered on how that was a right-wing movie. A right-wing movie. And why it worked very, very well. And, of course, Lily Wachowski, whose real name is Andrew, he's a dude pretending to be a woman now, admitted that.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So, we all know The Matrix, right? An incredibly rare American blockbuster that doesn't really draw as much from Western influences as it draws from Eastern philosophy and anime, and as a result ended up being one of the most unique pieces of science fiction possibly ever made, with an outlook on life that really not a lot of other science fiction blockbusters have really ever been able to capture. The Matrix really was a touchstone of not just science fiction, but really American culture in general when it came out, and it really changed everything going forward. Plenty of other films following The Matrix took direct inspiration from it, or in some cases directly aped off of it, and it was also definitely a film that caused a lot more people to really think about how they viewed the world around them, although this was definitely a for better or for worse type of situation. And perhaps no better example of this is The Matrix very infamously becoming one of the most intentionally misappropriated and misunderstood films of all time. The Matrix is, by design, a very open to interpretation film with a lot of
by the way, when JDA calls something right-wing, it's usually just to rile people up. So the fact that this dude made a video responding means he's part of the engagement cycle now. I mean, I don't agree. If you're going to say it's right-wing, give the arguments on why it's right-wing and go from it, right? I mean, just saying something is right-wing obviously doesn't have any merit, but just trying to rage bait it to rile people up, people are going to talk about it, right? Saying it's right wing, someone like Noah is going to come in and try and disprove that.
Different reads on it that people have got.
It also, in that case, can lose credibility for someone like JDA, where he is, really. If he claims that something is like right wing and it's clearly not, and in most cases, I think most aren't that politically set, right? You can vote, you can definitely point towards things that may be that way, but it does make you start to look bad in one way or the other. Sure, give the arguments, but we live in TikTok shorts and low attention spans on social media. Not everyone has the accurement to we do. Wargaming Dad. I know. I mean, everyone can't be perfect like us, right?
Gotten over the years, and this is something that Lana Wachowski herself has commented on before. Specifically, she brings this up on one of the bonus features for the Blu-ray disc for The Matrix Resurrections, the fourth film in the franchise.
This is me writing my experience of the last 20 years of everybody telling me what the Matrix means.
Obviously, the Matrix is about
transpolitics.
Crypto-fascism.
It's a metaphor
of capitalist exploitation.
Bullet time! But I also want to suggest the magic of art, that it has all of these meanings and it's all of those meanings are true.
That is the beauty of open-ended art overall, its ability to mean something to one person and mean something totally different to another person. However, there are a few distinct interpretations of the Matrix that the Wachowski sisters themselves have commented on not being their intention whatsoever, but unfortunately that hasn't stopped a very specific group of people from trying to claim that the Matrix was always a right-wing story, believe it or not.
It's more of a sense of that when we get older, we start to pay attention more. But social media is at the point where everything runs at 100 miles an hour, and nobody wants to stop and think about what they consume. Yeah, I can agree with that. You know, and even then, like, I'm not good. I've never been good at like breaking down movies, right? That's just not something I do. I know that I'm not good at like those inner things, even though I really enjoy horror for a lot of the underlying messages, especially around mental health and other things like that. But I also like to watch a movie and then go look at some retrospective movies and see things from the author's point of view and kind of what they were going for in that, right? My interpretation is the only correct one and everyone else is wrong.
I'm of course talking about none other than the anti-woke crowd of people who for the longest time seem to think that The Matrix is a right-wing story simply because of the red pill blue pill scene. In this scene, pretty famously, Morpheus offers Neo a choice. He can either take the red pill and wake up from the lie that the Matrix has been telling him, or he can take the blue pill and stay within the Matrix and stay being lied to.
I don't know that I've heard, I mean, maybe he's going to show examples. I've heard the red pill, blue pill thing, you know, being kind of taken over with that idea because, you know, you got the red pill movements, the blue pill, the black pill, and all of that stuff with it. So my favorite horror movie, Antonio, we're going to call you Antonio, is kind of a weird one. Not one most would think of, and it's called Butterfly Kisses. I really enjoy found footage, even the bad ones, and the mockumentary of Butterfly Kisses, just like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Get these grades.
Neo, of course, takes the red pill and winds up on the ship called the Nebuchadnezzar with the rest of the crew, who are a group of humans trying to oppose the AI threat. Now, of course, the color of the pill doesn't really matter in this scene, since ultimately this scene just represents making the hard choice between picking the reality that you've always known and always have been comfortable in but may or may not be actually real, or making the choice to move on from that supposed reality and wake up to the cold hard truth regardless of how nice that truth may or may not be. However, despite this, in more recent memory, people on the anti-woke side of things have tried to co-opt this scene and also this movie as a whole, trying to act like because the pill is red in this scene, clearly that means The Matrix was always a right-wing movie, always made for only right-wingers and nobody else. When really, that couldn't be farther from the truth, as we'll get into here. And this is something despite the Wachowskis clearly stating The Matrix was never intended to be exclusively a right-wing movie whatsoever, people on that side of things have pretty much dismissed them entirely on being any sort of authority on the subject, despite the fact they are literally the creators of The Matrix. So if anyone would know and would be an authority on the subject, it definitely would be them. But of course, this is something the anti-woke crowd doesn't really want to admit at all, given the fact that Wachowskis are trans women. And of course, that's something that doesn't line up at all with their ideology.
With Peeping Tom, I just thought it was so good, this whole idea of, you know, him doing a documentary on a found footage and it starting to get broken down by everybody and seeming to be fake, and it was just good. I loved it. I loved it as a found footage mockumentary.
Or rather, the ideology they want to present when talking about The Matrix. This is a blatant example of something that we call misappropriation of popular media. This is often done when somebody discussing a particular piece of media intentionally takes it out of context or against its original message or what its original creator wanted it to say, usually tweaking or altering, or in some cases outright lying about what the piece of media is trying to say with its message in order to fit their their own political agenda or own personal beliefs. This is often a very intentional tactic utilized by those wanting to spread hateful or bigoted beliefs against minorities or people they simply don't like, often trying to use talking about the true message of a particular piece of media as cover for doing this. This is by no means a new tactic whatsoever. It's in fact quite an old hat, having been around for quite a while, since very infamously Hitler took Nietzsche out of context in order to spread bigotry and hatred towards the Jews. Whereas back then, it was a dictator taking a German philosopher out of context in order to spread his own bigoted beliefs, we now see people doing the exact same thing with popular media. Like I said before, The Matrix is—
See, this is one criticism that I have of Noah. And it's a criticism I have of people who go after the anti-woke, is the bigoted this and that stuff. Like, I understand the idea behind it and why people say it, right? If you put yourself out there as long enough as being something, then yeah, people are going to treat you that way. But to me, it goes deeper than just saying that they're a bigot for, misappropriating, as he's saying this.
Is definitely one of those pieces of media that often gets misconstrued and intentionally misinterpreted a lot for these purposes, but also something like Fight Club has this happen a lot too. Fight Club, which is a film by David Fincher that more or less acts as a cautionary tale against toxic masculinity, especially due to its portrayal of the character Tyler Durden, has actually been intentionally misappropriated by toxic males who idolize Tyler Durden. Wow, imagine idolizing the guy who blows up people's apartments, cuts off people's balls, and also is basically a domestic terrorist. Couldn't be me. There's even an entire group of people who claim to be fans of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise who try to act like that Sonic was created as anti-communist propaganda initially by Sega, and also try to use—
Dude, the thing that's going on here where like people are just calling everything commie or just like, if you're liberal, you're commie. If you don't agree with Trump, you're a commie, or Marxism, or anything like that. And while, yes, communism was sparked from Marxism, so in a way was fascism, right? So it's just I don't know. People will do anything. To me, a lot of this stuff goes down to more, instead of it being like misappropriated, it's fan fiction that is written up for it.
Use this as an excuse to go around hating anyone who's part of the Sonic fandom that is remotely left-wing at all, and also go around being pretty generally racist and bad in general, saying things like the N-word in their Discord server, and also drawing Sonic shaking hands with Hitler.
I don't know if Utterly Noah knows this, but I've said it a few times on X. Well, I've soft A'd on X, we'll say. Or the F slur I have flat out said. Mostly I do it when someone like tries to spell it out without spelling the whole thing. And I'm like, if you're gonna be, if you're gonna put the word in there to try and be edgy, just say the whole thing, right? Oh, well, I don't want to lose my engagement. Well, then just don't be edgy.
Yes, this is somehow real. Oh boy, we'll talk about those guys later. They're quite the crowd, that's for sure. So today, I want to talk about the idea of misappropriating media intentionally in general, why it's often a very bad thing and has very bad consequences, and also why it's very often purposely done by some of the worst people around. And ultimately, I want to talk about what really reading media looks like overall, since obviously misappropriating media to match your own hateful beliefs really isn't doing that whatsoever. To start, let's look at the film that I talked about at the start of this video, that being The Matrix. Like I said before, in more recent memory, The Matrix has attempted to be intentionally co-opted by various right-wingers. One person who's attempted to do this in recent memory is none other than the supposed sci-fi author and anti-woke grifter John De La Rose. For those who don't know who John is, he's an anti-woke and right-wing activist who claims he's also a sci-fi author who's getting sci-fi back to its right-wing roots. When in actuality, he's just another anti-woke slop channel that pretty much tries to plug his book every single video.
$10,000 goal right here. This is Valiant Frontiers. I'm making my own sci-fi property because of just what I've seen with science fiction in recent years. It's just been a complete disaster. And because of this, we are just moving along, building our own culture to combat things like Netflix. Now, we're not at the movie stage yet, but it starts with books. And this is a trilogy you can enjoy today. And thank you for...
Have you ever seen the Bobcat Goth with Bigfoot found footage movie? It's actually pretty scary and has some awesome, oh God, get away. Some awesome takes. JDA's channel is really just a front to sell his book. Now that I'll agree with, absolutely. Full disclosure, I bought his book. All right. You've bought his book. I've thought about buying it and reading it, though I still have other books to read, and I'm terrible at finishing books, especially if I don't enjoy them. What are your thoughts on it? Without trying to sweep for the guy. Oh, you haven't read it yet? Okay. Well, after you do, let me know. I get it. We always have, tons of problems having time to do things.
For everybody who's supported so far, really appreciate you guys for doing so. It is on sale, 99 cents to Wednesday. It's part of the Cyber Monday Black Friday deal, and it's in the description below. This is pure action, lots of fun. Like I said, unabashed right wing. You're going to absolutely love it. I'm going to brainstorm this. I'm going to show you how my sci-fi brainstorming process works.
This is always a weird thing, like him saying unabashed right wing. Because like a big push in a lot of the anti-wokers is to get politics out of gaming. But with JDA, it really is, no, we're going to, I only want right-wing politics in gaming, or in writing anyway. Because he does seem to be more about his writing than anything else.
I've already come up with a lot of this in my head as I've been thinking about it overnight. But I'm going to do this just as a science fiction writer, just to show you how not difficult this is and why it's like, why doesn't Disney just hire real science fiction writers to write this stuff instead of Hollywood people? I am the author of Valiant Frontiers, and this is my fix to a lot of different sci-fi that's out there. I wrote a full trilogy. That's a lot of fun. Had a beautiful artist, my most expensive I've ever hired.
Is it on audio?
The covers for these.
Is it on audiobook? Because if it's on audiobook, that would be easier.
Because I really wanted this to pop, and I want to make science fiction great again. So if you like books, if you like reading, if you like my thoughts on things, I hope you'll check this out. It's in the description below.
Does he have a coffee company?
Below. Really appreciate you guys for supporting us and what we're doing here. It's in the description below. Again, thank you guys so much for reading and supporting great science fiction. This is the type of stuff, Wachowskis, if you guys want to make this movie, we can make a great right-wing movie together. Call me sometime. Have my people do lunch with your people.
Yeah, I also hate to help him. Like, a lot of the right-wing movies that have come out have not done very well in those in a lot of the spaces that are going on.
He's always reminding people to pitch in with some of their money to help fund his incredibly based and red-pilled sci-fi books. Come on, guys, my books are gonna get sci-fi back to its anti-woke roots. We can't have all these woke losers in sci-fi anymore. Now give me money. This guy obviously doesn't really know what he's talking about at all when it comes to sci-fi, given the fact that sci-fi genre in general was started by a woman, that being Mary Shelley, when she wrote the book Frankenstein. Something, of course, that I don't think he'd be really willing to admit to you whatsoever. More recently, however, he made a video called Matrix Creator Admits Trans Identity Politics Destroyed His Artistic Output. Oh boy, we're already off to a rough start here with him very intentionally trying to dead name and misgender Lily, but let's see what he had to say.
It's my opinion that everything woke just turns into crap. And that's exactly what happened with the Wachowski brothers. They, of course, made The Matrix, wrote and directed it, of course, made one of the greatest science fiction films of all time. They got there first in the film version. It worked very, very well, and it was a great movie. Now, yesterday on the channel, we covered on how that was a right-wing movie and why it worked very, very well. And, of course, Lily Wachowski, whose real name is Andrew, he's a dude pretending to be a woman now, admitted that.
Oh boy, we're already off to a great start here with him opening the video by dead naming Lily Wachowski.
Yeah, I know about I actually invented sci-fi. Megatron disliked it though, so I was forced to keep it hidden for a time. Oh, I like it. Did JDA at least actually wrote his book, or is it another right-wing use of a ghostwriter? I don't know. EGAD might be able to answer that. I know he's big into AI. I've seen people use AI, what I would say correctly, to help like brainstorm and storyboard and things like that. But I don't know. I have no idea.
Also, him apparently thinking The Matrix is somehow a right-wing movie, despite the fact the Wachowskis themselves have constantly told people that it's not. He's of course making it very clear that he's already coming into this in bad faith, not really giving the creator's vision any real thought of his own.
JDA uses AI to write his books. Not sure what program he uses, but I've read his Churchinity book, and I can see where the AI was used. Yeah, that's the problem with it. Is a lot of these AI books that come out, it's AI books, AI changes to movies. The art that's come online, you can always tell. It just looks, that way.
It's looking like he'd rather push his own politics and beliefs out there instead of actually listening to other people about the media and listening to their perspectives on it, or even just listening to what the actual creators of that media have to say on it and what their vision for it was. We're already off to a pretty rough start here, but let's see if he says anything actually smart in this video, which I kinda doubt will be the case at all.
But in the interview also, he started talking about how his transgenderism started informing his writing. And this is the problem with identity politics and everything. And when writers get into identity politics, they have to make everything about themselves. It's always a self-insert. It's always trying to feel seen.
Yeah, all art is from the perspective of the artist. That's kind of the entire point of art in creating overall. It's a way for that person to be able to express themselves in a way they might not be able to otherwise. That's why humanity has been creating art as long as it's existed now. It's a way for us to get our stories out there. Heck, you've even openly admitted to doing this before yourself, John. In every single one of your videos, you always plug your books and say how they're really right-wing and really reflect that ideology overall. So by definition, that's you putting your own perspective and politics into a book.
There's a hallmark to AI, like listing things in threes, using phrases like "it's not thing one, but it's thing two," also repeating certain words or ideas. Yeah, I've noticed that in some writings and things like tweets and stuff like that even too. Let's get rid of that and let's try this. Ooh, look at all of that.
Piece of art and putting it out there for the world to see. So I find it very interesting you seem to think it's okay when you do that, but when the Wachowskis do that, it's not okay whatsoever. Pretty interesting double standard you got there. It's also incredibly funny because for those who may not know, John very publicly is a furry who has posted some very interesting things that he wants to do to Lucario from Pokemon. And also by that definition, he's definitely more on the extreme end of the furry fandom than most people within it. But it also is very hypocritical because despite him being part of a group that often is othered and has a lot of misconceptions surrounding it, he still thinks it's okay to treat trans folk or LGBT folk as lesser people and other them, despite the fact he's part of a group that often does get othered to begin with. You'd think being an outspoken furry he'd actually understand this, but apparently not. I imagine the furry fandom doesn't really claim him anyway, given the kind of stuff that John says on a daily basis.
But they got there first in the film version. It worked very, very well, and it was a great movie.
That depends.
Now, yesterday on the channel, we covered on how that was a right-wing movie and why it worked very, very well. And, of course, Lily Wachowski, whose real name is Andrew, he's a dude pretending to be a woman now, admitted that.
This is actually a straight-up lie. If we look at John's previous video here, which is very subtly called Wachowski Brothers' Total Meltdown on The Matrix being a right-wing sci-fi movie, which more or less just consists of him recapping this article written by John F. Trent for Fandom Pulse, nowhere in here at all do the Wachowskis actually say that this is a right-wing movie or admit that. The article that John is discussing here quite literally references this interview with Lily Wachowski that was done on the So True with Caleb Heron podcast. And lo and behold, on this interview, she goes ahead and denounces right-wingers trying to take this movie as something only made for them.
That just must be so crazy for you to be like, why are members of the Trump administration like talking about the Matrix like it was made for them and their ideology when it came from you and you're not, that's not you at all. I mean, what do you even do with that? Other than love it, I know you voted for him.
I did twice.
Oh, that's interesting.
Gonna vote for him next time too.
Being sarcastic, I suppose.
I don't know. I mean, the beauty of filmmaking is that you get to come together in this community, all these different artists, and bring this thing that is in your brain into this new form. And that new form is a collective art piece. When I think about like the Matrix and, this, success that it had, I mean, that's something that I think like artists or filmmakers or any artist really, they place too much emphasis on those kinds of successes. Right-wing ideology appropriates absolutely everything. They appropriate left-wing points of view and they mutate them for their own propaganda.
On the furry stuff, John was making a fun of war campaign that was a comic gate thing, and I think he regrets doing it now, given that everyone realizes he was mocking them. Okay. I don't want her to gain flesh. We'll do empowered minions, get more. Oh shoot, I am. There we go. Let's get some more little guys in here.
Boop. For their own, to obfuscate what the real message is. This is what fascism does. And so, of course, that's going to happen. Right. They do it with absolutely
he's
everything.
Not a furry.
So, in short, John was straight up lying here about Lily admitting this whatsoever. I kind of find it funny he thought people would believe this at all, given the fact it's very easy to check his previous video and fact check him on this. He kind of didn't really do a good job of hiding that whatsoever. But given the fact, like I said before, this is the same guy who wanted to bang Pokemon apparently and couldn't even hide that fact from people, and also was defending Melanie Mac during the big Goonergate scandal, where he, Melanie Mac, John F. Trent, and Razor Fist were all trying to claim that degeneracy doesn't belong in video games and that female bodies shouldn't be attractive there. Which, of course, caused them to be isolated not just from the woke side of things, but also the anti-woke side of things as well. Funny enough, not long after this initial controversy with Goonergate happened, John...
What they are saying also applies to my side of the left. Both sides like to claim media. I mean, it's... So when it comes to media, when you're looking at any kind of art, media, paintings, a banana on the fucking wall, there's the intent of the artist, and then there's the interpretation of the person viewing it. So you can come with different interpretations of art in a lot of different ways. You could see something in it in some point that, while it's not their intention, it fits into, your beliefs or your something like that. Now, sometimes I would say that the over performative stuff, like it's inherently political and it's inherently right wing, it's inherently left wing, is just people trying to claim it for their side of a political movement versus looking at the media and seeing how it speaks to them.
Himself actually got blocked by Melanie for claiming that the Jews were taking over the West. Imagine how far gone you have to be and how much of a lolcow you have to be to get blocked by Melanie Mac, of all people, who is very much a lolcow in her own right. That's just a whole different level of insanity there if Melanie Mac, of all people, is blocking you too.
Like I said, it's always a self-insert with these people. It's always that problem. And that's why none of it feels very interesting or real, because it's like, gosh, it's like I can read your Facebook posts about how you like made an omelet this morning, like, and ate it. It's like that's not very exciting as a film, right? It is mental illness. It 100% is. That woke mind virus is something that is just creates this disorder and anger and just like a hate of the world, and then they channel that back into their works, and of course their works don't feel very good at that point. That's why they're always so miserable. It just creates this different perspective from this point of view here, and I could see like Bound, the first shot of the movie is a closet, and I'm like, okay, it looks like we're going to be working on some stuff. All right. So, of course, now he ties that to his own coming out of the closet, right? And so that's what it is. It's always a self-insert, when Bound really didn't have anything to do with the transgenderism or anything like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Otterly on this. Like, if like the artist does have an intention, right? They're coming out of the closet. When you're making anything, when you're writing a book, when you're writing a script, there's a part of you that you put into it. You're not being like, it's not you soullessly making it for the art. You're usually connecting something with it. So I mean, the idea that they're self-inserting, well, yeah, who doesn't put a part of themselves into their work?
His first films were pretty interesting.
So this is very funny to me because this makes it very clear that John very likely didn't actually watch the movie Bound at all, which was the Wachowskis' first ever film. For those unaware, Bound is quite literally an erotic crime thriller that stars a lesbian couple as its main leads. That's exactly what Lily is referring to here when talking about the closet and that entire visual metaphor in the film. And Bound isn't even subtle about it. It's very on the nose about featuring a lesbian couple, including a sex scene between the two main characters. So it's very clear John isn't actually that familiar with the Wachowskis' body of work and how they've always been very progressive since the very beginning. I'm pretty sure if he actually watched Bound, which again was the Wachowskis' first ever movie, he'd be calling them woke activists from the very beginning. But clearly he hasn't actually seen that much of their work, so really he doesn't actually know what he's talking about here at all. It's honestly pretty funny here to see how clueless he is about film history, but also kind of sad.
His first films were pretty interesting, and we'll go over that list here before we get into the rest of this like crazy interview. Look at this, like Assassins. This was an okay movie, decent action movie. Bound, okay movie again. Matrix just crushed it, right? And so they got their work going. They did very, very well, and then they finally on their third movie really had a breakout, amazing hit. The Animatrix was really cool. If you guys didn't watch this, it was like a spin-off of the Matrix. Really well done and good stuff. And this was probably the next best thing in the Matrix after this. Matrix Reloaded took the franchise in like a poor direction. That was a bummer, and
yeah,
really was like the path towards not as good. But it was an okay film. It was all right, and of course, the Matrix Revolutions was just a pretty bad wrap up of that as well. So that's where they're at. It didn't work out very well.
I didn't mind the Matrix Revolution personally. I didn't mind the Matrix Revolution personally. I felt like, I mean, the first will always be kind of peak, but then it like the end of Matrix Revolution and stuff like that just went like Dragon Ball Z amounts of crazy. No, it was the second one that went Dragon Ball Z, right? I can't remember where the fight scene between no, yeah, it was the end. The fight scene between the agent and Neo was just very, I don't know, out of place.
Excellent job with that film. As much as that film is a political nightmare in of itself, it's a different story.
I find it very funny that John calls V for Vendetta a political nightmare because I'm pretty sure he's very aware that it's one of the most blatantly anti-fascist pieces of media ever made. V for Vendetta, both the Alan Moore comic and the film adaptation by the Wachowskis, are very blatantly two very anti-fascist pieces of media, and the fascist regime in them is very blatantly portrayed as alt-right. The government portrayed in V for Vendetta very blatantly tries to control its people through means of propaganda and also executes people that it considers undesirable, such as people who are homosexual or of a different religion. It also very intentionally tries to keep women amongst its population very subservient and unable to speak their mind or speak for themselves in various situations. The extremist alt-right fascist allegory isn't really subtle at all in the comic or in the movie. This is something that I imagine John is very aware of, and that's why he doesn't really want to get into it and just dismisses V for Vendetta as a political mess.
Cloud Atlas was like acceptable. Jupiter Ascending was a complete disaster, and this is where they started going off the rails, right? This is where they started their transgender journey, and it started causing problems for their output, right? Look at this; it's their lowest rating of anything. Now, Sense8 has a high rating, and I don't know why. Sense 8 was really where it went off the rails. They teamed with J. Michael Straczynski, who wrote Babylon 5 from before, and they just made a complete disaster out of this. This is the first major woke effort out there. And I remember just watching it, and it opened with a transgender dude pretending to be a woman in like this like dildo that they flung on the ground that was sopping wet. It was disgusting. I'm dead serious. That is how they opened the show. And then there's a ton of just gay sex in it, and then this giant orgy to like build this into a climax. And it's like, obviously it was about their weird sex fetishes. And whenever they try to tell you it's about like who they are or whatever, it's not. It's always about a weird sex fetish, and this is what happens every single time.
It's funny because one of the earliest scenes in the Matrix.
I'll be honest. I hate the contrast assigning of media to one or the other side of the political spectrum. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there. Like, I don't think that movies are necessarily like, you can say V for Vendetta was definitely about like that fascist regime in Britain taking over and oppressing the people, and V moving into that, but not every single movie out there needs to be right wing, left wing. It's just a terrible concept. It just doesn't meet any kind of standards for me, and it's just kind of watering down what the message might actually be in movies.
Reloaded, in fact, is a giant orgy taking place in the city of Zion. Of course, though, there are no homosexuals depicted in this giant orgy, so I guess it's okay by John's logic for that orgy to happen, but if there's any homosexuals in an orgy, it's not okay. Right, so giant orgies are totally okay by big proud Christian John's logic here if they're heterosexual, but if there's any homosexual orgies at all, that's totally not okay at all. This is kind of funny given the fact that John claims to be a Christian, because if he had actually read the Bible, he'd understand that orgies kind of aren't really condoned in the Bible at all. Regardless of what sexuality those orgies belong to, they're just frowned upon in Christian beliefs in general, since sex outside of marriage is frowned upon in Christian beliefs. So it's funny that John claims to be a Christian while very clearly not knowing at all what Christian beliefs are and not really adhering to them whatsoever. Not only does he not know at all what he's talking about when it comes to sci-fi, it's very clear he doesn't even know what he's talking about when it comes to the religion that he claims to be a part of. This man is so uneducated that it's honestly kind of painful.
It's always about a weird sex fetish, and this is what happens every single time.
I find this really ironic that John is saying this when he's been very public himself about his fetish for Lucario from Pokemon.
I didn't read this article, but did John specifically mention The Matrix Reloaded or just the original movie? I don't know. I would have to read the article to see particularly.
Yeah, clearly it's only okay when you do it, right, John?
And this is where the content really starts to go off the rails. So Jupiter Ascending, as they're getting into it, you see as the Wachowskis, because they're starting their transgender journey, they can't even create correctly anymore. Sense 8 is just a nightmare of just disgustingness. I mean, it's probably one of the worst things on Netflix, and there's a lot of bad things on Netflix. Pretty crazy. And then, of course, they try to get back to the Matrix and try to make it into a transgender allegory this time around during the pandemic, and came out with this, of course, making the strong female lead in charge instead. It was a disaster of a movie. Very bummer that they went back to this and, of course, wrecked it even further than they had in the original trilogy.
So, several things that John just said here are very blatantly and very provably wrong. First up, the female main character, who I'm assuming he's referring to Bugs here in the movie, is not the lead of the Matrix Resurrections. That's still Neo, and this is still his story. The Matrix Resurrections more or less functions as an intentional meta commentary on the idea of legacy sequels overall and how redundant they tend to be, while also existing to give Neo and Trinity a happy ending.
I'm sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy. What?
Bugs is simply a new character that's introduced in the film. She doesn't really take over the story at all, so I'm not sure why John thought that here. In addition to this, the movie was a financial failure, but not for the reasons that John laid out here. Not only did this film come out in the midst of the pandemic during the winter, it also released simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters, thus incentivizing a lot more people just to stay at home and see it there instead of going out of their way to see it in theaters. In addition, The Matrix Resurrections released right up alongside Spider-Man No Way Home, one of the highest grossing films of all time. This was the film that got a lot of people going to theaters again even during the midst of the pandemic. Although, funny enough, in retrospect, a lot more people have been looking more fondly on The Matrix Resurrections as a legacy sequel than Spider-Man No Way Home, since they've noticed just how differently The Matrix Resurrections tackle the idea of a legacy sequel as opposed to Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home intentionally embraces the idea of bringing up past nostalgia, The Matrix Resurrections challenges that idea and deconstructs it. But really, because of all these factors, the odds were not really financially stacked in The Matrix 4's favor whatsoever. So obviously, John is very intentionally trying to be misleading about the real reason why The Matrix Resurrections failed financially, trying to blame it on wokeness instead of all the reasons that I just stated here. Overall, John has really failed in his attempt here to try to reframe The Matrix as a right-wing story that was only made for right-wingers, when really, if you look at The Matrix fundamentally as a piece of media, there's no real easy way at all for right-wingers to try to reframe this movie and try to claim it was only made for them. As stated before, The Matrix took a lot of inspiration from Eastern philosophy and also anime, and also two very distinct books as well. That being the 1992 book Out of Control by Kevin Kelly, and also the 1981 text Simulacra and Simulation by the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard. Both of these pieces of literature are very blatantly anti-capitalist and also very blatantly anti-consumer as well. Simulacra and Simulation discusses the idea of taking a kernel of truth or something that was a true fact and slowly distorting it over time until it becomes completely different from what it was before. Out of Control is very blatant with its anti-corporate and anti-capitalist message, with how it says people are better off thinking not as a hive mind but individually for themselves. Neither of these things really fit into a right-wing ideology at all. Also, even more so when you consider the fact that one of the villains of the film, the Judas Iscariot of the group, actually wants to rejoin the Matrix and continue living the capitalist lie that's fed to him by the AI there.
Ignorance is bliss.
So even though right-wingers constantly seem to want to take the fact that there's a red pill in this movie as evidence that this is a right-wing movie, the fact that Wachowskis constantly deny this, and the movie itself pretty much fundamentally goes against this, it makes it very easy to disprove people like John when they try to claim this and obviously don't really know what they're talking about whatsoever. As much as John tries to claim other people are pushing their political agendas in his media, it really looks like the only person actually doing that here is him in this video. Also, a fun fact about John, as much as he complains about trans people for no discernible reason whatsoever, he actually has posed falsely as a woman before on the internet in a desperate attempt to get his book sold. No, I am not making this up, and it is genuinely hilarious. John has a pen name he likes to go by on the internet named Daniela Essera, who writes female smut fiction apparently. This is very ironic given the fact, once again, he was complaining about gay orgies before, and also he was a part of Goonergate too, but it also gets even funnier when you realize the picture he uses on his pen name account is actually a picture of a real woman. That's right, this woman goes by Annabelle High Spanish as her handle on Twitter, and John actually stole her picture for his fake female smut pen name account. Wow, that sure is a big yikes, but it gets even worse for him when you realize the fact that she actually found out about this and was preparing to sue him. It's very funny when you look at John trying to make these absurd claims about other people trying to pretend to be women, when really he's someone who states he's a cis man, yet literally pretends to be a woman, in a desperate move to try to sell any of his writing at all. The irony of this situation is absolutely hilarious, and John is a major lolcow. But believe it or not, The Matrix isn't the only film to be—
There we talk about the overuse of the word lolcow and it being mainstream. I don't know that I would consider John a lolcow in the normal sense. Like, yeah, he's he's definitely an anti-woker. He's one of the more Christian anti-wokers. He's not on the same level though, as a what is it called? John is happily married to a bona fide Latina. Good for him. Good for him. Not all of us can get there. Don't take that too seriously. I love my wife. She's white as hell though. What was I gonna say? Let me read this back just a little bit. Oh, yeah, that he's not a grifter. Or not a grifter, he's not a lolcow in the same way. Like, I would consider Tactical Templar a lolcow, just in the way he acts, the things that he's done, like pretty much making sounds that make it sound like he is jerking off while on stream watching streamer what are they, anime streamers. So yeah, I think there's some problems with calling them a lolcow, right? That's such a common word used, but I don't think John falls under it.
Now though, much like The Matrix, Fight Club has also been very intentionally misappropriated by right-wing people, mostly those who want to advocate for toxic masculinity. They seem to idolize the character of Tyler Durden in the film, who very clearly in the movie is portrayed as not a good person and not to be a good entity at all, given the fact he represents several repressed aspects of the narrator coming out in an unhealthy way, but it seems like certain people didn't really get that. Funny enough, David Fincher himself has actually commented before on how his film has been very intentionally misinterpreted by various incels. In an interview with The Guardian in 2023, he stated, "It's impossible for me to understand that people don't understand that Tyler Durden is a negative influence. People who can't understand that, I don't know how to respond and I don't know how to help them." So just like the Wachowskis, it's very clear that Fincher is unfortunately aware of the kind of misappropriation his film has had over the years, but unfortunately it looks like the people misappropriating it don't really care at all. One such—
Well, it's kind of like the same thing with God, I can never think of the names of movies. Now I gotta look it up. Bear with me. It's a classic. I'm not even gonna try and look it up. I know I'll remember it here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean there's other like evil characters that have been taken on as like a positive character. Some of it, like I think definitely started with like that edgy idea of being edgy because they're the bad guy, but it's just become kind of like sad when you see people taking it to a different level.
Such person who made a video intentionally misappropriating the film Fight Club was none other than the YouTuber Moon. Moon has been a very controversial YouTuber for a while, since he often tends to make the same kinds of videos over and over, but more recently he's been accused and proved of plagiarism.
Take the trouble to falsely accuse the ban community of breaking some rules in a pointless and pathetic attempt to justify the ban.
The admins of Reddit will falsely ban subreddits under the guise of breaking some arbitrary rules in a pointless and pathetic attempt to justify the ban.
They weren't always this trigger happy.
There was
once upon a time when they would only close a community if it brought unwanted media scrutiny and bad PR to the whole website.
There was actually a time when they would only close a community if it brought unwanted media scrutiny and bad PR to the whole website.
Fool this man!
Yep, that's right. Moon was shown time and time again to be intentionally copying other people's scripts and plagiarizing them for his own videos without citing them whatsoever. Something, of course, that we don't do over here, so you can check the description to see the sources cited for this video. But yes, Moon has been shown time and time again to be a pretty notable plagiarist, so he's already sort of garnered a lot of controversy for himself in general. In addition to this, a lot of his videos fall under the same generic conspiracy theory, anti-woke type stuff that you see from a lot of different channels. The same typical fear-mongering and also a very generic editing style as well. At one point, he made a video called Fight Club, a warning for men, with the words weak men on the thumbnail. Oh boy, let's see what he had to say.
Men love Fight Club. Most films made over 20 years ago have long been forgotten, but among the tiny few that maintain their relevancy, Fight Club always comes on top.
Okay, so right off the bat here, I love that Moon says that most films from over 20 years ago have long been forgotten when showing 3 of the greatest and most memorable American films from the past 60 years. That being Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, and also The Godfather. This was already a pretty bad start to his video, self-defeating his own opening statement by showing these 3 movies, but even outside of that, there's plenty of movies from over 20 years ago that people still talk about and love to this day. Like, you're really gonna tell me people don't still talk about Toy Story, or The Lion King, or Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Ben-Hur, or Top Gun, or Lawrence of Arabia, or E.T., or Taxi Driver, or Star Wars, or Schindler's List, or Jurassic Park? The list goes on and on and on. Oh, and The Matrix too, and that's only regarding American films. I'm not even talking about foreign films. Already, right off the bat, Moon has already made it very clear he's not really very knowledgeable when it comes to film or film history.
But then why have men become so weak? What is behind this male despair? Well, I've spent countless hours studying this phenomenon, and there are 3 main things causing this, and they might surprise you. But before we go into that, we need to see how fight.
I hate this idea like men are weak. Idea, you know, yeah, there are, you know, we can talk about like people who are incels and things like that, but men as a whole, I don't believe are becoming weak or are weak, right? It's not weak to live together with your family and you and your wife talk about your situations. It's not weak that the wife is the breadwinner in the house. There's changes in our society that has happened, right?
Fight Club tackles masculinity in the 21st century. The only interesting thing in his life is the fantasy of dying in a plane crash. However, it's on one of these fights where the character Tyler Durden is introduced. A man who's the opposite of the narrator in every way. A man's man, with a big leather jacket, shades, and unlimited confidence. Tyler Durden begins to change everything. His calm, stoic confidence with his fatalistic outlook makes for a perfect testosterone-laced aura. And as he drives off in a stolen sports car, the narrator goes back to his regular life, only to find all his possessions have gone. His IKEA home has evaporated. His identity and past life has been reduced to ash. It's in this moment where the narrator begins to regain his true masculinity.
No, that's not really what happens at all there, Moon. That's not the moment where he finds his true masculinity as you've claimed there. That's the moment when he starts deluding himself into thinking he's found the answer for all the problems he's had throughout his life. For those unaware, in Fight Club, both the book and the movie, it's heavily implied that the narrator never really had a father figure whatsoever. So as a result, he more or less comes up with the imaginary persona of Tyler Durden to basically act as a pseudo-father figure for him, since this is something that he's pretty much lacked throughout his entire life. But given the fact that Tyler is more or less just a schizophrenic projection of the narrator's own uncertainty and inability to really figure out what the source of the problems in his life is, and his initial inability to find a real solution for it, hence why he goes throughout the first part of the film going to different therapy groups and trying to find different people that he thinks are worse off than him, just so he can feel a little better about himself, it's obvious that Tyler really isn't a great father figure in that sense whatsoever. Like, if you actually watch Fight Club, it's very obvious what the message here actually is, but for some reason Moon seems to have missed that. Or rather, it's more than likely he does actually know what the film is about, but he's intentionally misappropriating it and misrepresenting it.
Okay, so then what is causing men to feel so weak? What's behind this male disconnect in real life? Well, I think one of the main reasons behind this is that men no longer have any means of self-expression or deep connection. The fact is that average life for so many men means that their relationships are always functioning on a surface level. And with so many limited connections, we turn to supposedly social means of relaxing. Going on Tinder, playing video games, going to the bar to supposedly unwind. You see all these men piling up in sticky low-end clubs to bathe in the waters of the profane.
Going to bars to unwind? That's like
really?
An American... Oh man, hey, thank you, Killer Ducky. I appreciate the sub, man. And if y'all are here, we'll go ahead and shill seeing that. If you are here and you haven't liked the stream, please like the stream. It helps me out. I'm on my road to 500. Right now our next goal is 200. So if you're at all feeling super generous, subscribe, help me get there as we talk about more of these subjects.
Destroying their body to the crescendos of recycled thumping bass, scantily dressed paralytic women, and salivating droog-like men, rushing to the refuge of an inebriated stupor to feel some sort of connection.
Okay, well if you're claiming that consuming alcohol and going to clubs is the thing that's destroying masculinity, let's look at what Tyler does in the movie here. He drinks a lot of alcohol, he smokes a lot, and he goes to a club to fight. Also, he does...
Hey, no problem with lurking, Ducky.
Have sex a lot in the movie with Marla as well. So, if these are the things you claim are destroying masculinity, then why exactly does the main masculine character that you claim to look up to here do that in this film? Holy crap, Moon is so lost in the meaning of Fight Club in general that he's literally contradicting himself here. It's kind of amazing, but also kind of sad.
These low-end bars, clubs, and Tinder are like a slot machine, where you spend your money and time to get hooked on the prospect of winning a
Well, I mean, I agree with him on that Tinder one. Let's finish what he's saying.
sloppy, disconnected hookup. If deep social connections were normal for men, if men felt connected to their labor and the people around them, but they felt like a healthy, unrepressed individual, there would be no need for any of this. We wouldn't be wasting our lives getting drunk, standing out in dead-end clubs until God knows when.
Which, again, is literally what Tyler does in this movie, and that's what he leads everybody else to do as well. Holy crap, did Moon just not watch Fight Club at all? I'm honestly really getting that vibe here, given how awful his analysis has been so far.
He's confident and aggressive, and other men become allured by his life. They gather by the dozens to fight with each other, all of them wanting to fill that untapped masculine energy. This pattern only continues to grow. All these men who are fed up with being weak losers, these men who have lost their way, who feel resentful of the world around them, leading to the formation of an underground group known as Fight Club, a club dedicated to rejecting what they claim to be feminine conformist indoctrination. And it's around this time the narrator starts.
Where does it say feminine and forced? Like where is it implying feminist forced indoctrination? It's the grind that people live through from day to day, right? We all go to our offices and sit. We all have to sit in front of a computer and type away for a corporation that doesn't care about us. People are in loads of debt trying to, survive and overspend. Even, at the end of the movie, they're trying to destroy all of that so no one has any debt anymore.
Starts to be perceived differently. He's now seen as an individual. In fact, all of the people at Fight Club now stand out from the rest. They aren't just carbon copies anymore.
What? That's not even true. They're not named. Everyone in the Fight Club doesn't say their name. It wasn't until the one guy died that he was allowed to use his name. That's just completely wrong.
Well, they are battered, they dress and act differently.
No, they quite literally don't, and that's something the film makes a very clear point of. There's the whole scene where Tyler and the narrator, of course being the same person, are in the front of that car together, and the people behind them, part of Fight Club, part of Project Mayhem, are literally saying the exact same thing in unison.
Alright, yeah, why wasn't I told about Project Mayhem?
First rule of Project Mayhem is you do not ask questions.
I want to know certain things first.
First rule of Project Mayhem.
Shut up!
This is also shown when police officers who are also part of Fight Club and Project Mayhem share the same mentality in trying to take down the narrator, since, as Tyler, he told them to do so and take off his balls.
You said if anyone ever interferes with Project Mayhem, even you, we gotta get his balls.
These guys literally cannot think for themselves at all, even when it comes down to just basic logic. So despite what Moon says here, one of the big points of the film is that they aren't different from each other at all, and they're all operating under the same mentality. Again, I'm not even convinced that Moon actually watched the movie, since he doesn't even understand something as simple as this. The fact that all these men are operating under the same mentality and acting the exact same as each other is shown at many points in the film.
And men are on the brunt of all of this, with male rates reaching an all-time high in recent years.
Well, the thing is, the rates of people taking their own lives has skyrocketed in general. That's not just exclusive to men. As of me making this video, that is actually the 11th leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 34 overall. So, despite that unfortunately being something that has been on the rise for quite a while now, Moon very intentionally tries to spin this story as though it's only men doing this, when really it's the general population overall. The problem doesn't just solely exist in men, it exists in a lot of kind of people, but unfortunately it looks like Moon doesn't really want to acknowledge that. But then again, that wouldn't really help the narrative he's trying to create here.
We are the first generation of losers. I'm sure we all remember that Try Guys video, where they measured their testosterone and it was so low that it was below the average for an 85 to 100-year-old man. But this video really wasn't as funny as it first seemed. The average testosterone used to be over 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. Now the average for men is usually around 300 to 700 nanograms per deciliter. Which is why in the past, men acted like men. They faced discomfort and came together through unthinkable struggle, war, economic collapse, poverty, plagues. By 21, Alexander the Great...
Plagues are caused by lesser testosterone?
Had conquered most of Europe and was expanding into Asia.
I'm sorry, what? Are we really trying to compare young men from today to a Macedonian dictator from 300 BC? What is even the comparison here? Moon is saying some absolutely insane stuff that I'm kind of surprised he actually is playing any of this straight at all, or that he believes any of this stuff. Also, why in the world would you cite a BuzzFeed video of all things for your sources here? Imagine having such a blatant lack of an argument that you have to cite BuzzFeed of all things. That's pretty bad.
And I mean, just talk to your parents or grandparents who had houses in their 20s, raising children, working in mines, starting businesses.
Yeah, wow, working in mines sounds really great. I bet that's something that the people of today really want to do, right, Moon? I feel like Moon really didn't consider any of the things he's saying here whatsoever, given the fact most of this comes off as completely preposterous. And as far as the thing goes about asking parents about having houses in their 20s, I don't think that's been a thing for quite a while now. Housing prices have been high for a long time now, and that's just how it is. So I think most people that aren't somehow loaded from the get-go tend to settle for an apartment first, especially if they're starting a family. I love how Moon tries to act like he was there for all of this. He was there when people were working in the mines and opening businesses, when more than likely, Moon is only in his—
Yeah, but what happened to a lot of those mines, right? Hey, what's going on, Otterly? Noah, how you doing? How you doing? Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I've got some disagreements here and there, but I think it's a good video overall. Yeah, and look what happened to the people who were actually working in the mines. Once that changed over, people started losing their jobs. Entire towns disappeared, and people were forced into more service and based jobs. And miners got all the coal lungs and asbestos. And I mean, we're even seeing some of that starting to come back recently. I was reading about Trump wanting to give immunity to some of these companies that make the fake rocks, and apparently cutting the rocks releases like particles that even a normal mask can't go under, which leads to like cancer, loss of breathing in the lungs, and eventual death. This is more a part of the problems with capitalism versus versus it being like less masculine. Like, is it more masculine to go do a job that's killing you? That just doesn't make any sense. Strangely enough, we are seeing that it's coming back to a degree. Yeah, it's wild. Why would he do that? Because it's business interests. If you really look at Trump and a lot of the things that are going on, and me being, from a more right-wing perspective, he is enriching businesses around him. I'm actually pro-capitalism, but we're not in a pro-capitalism ideal. For capitalism to work, you have to have checks and balances that keep companies from becoming monopolies. And right now we're in a case where all of these giant companies are not being considered monopolies. And you also have to have, worker protections. That's just part of it.
His 20s as well, and wasn't even there for any of this. This is just kind of funny to hear him act like he was there for all of this when men were way more manly. Yeah, sure thing, buddy.
We did manual labor, we dug into the earth, we sweated it out every day, rain and shine. But now huge chunks of men are spineless wimps. I'm not trying to sound macho saying this, but it's a blunt reality. Men are being drowned in estrogen-laced products. High estrogen causes men to take on feminine traits. They become less assertive with low energy. Their genitals shrink and voices get higher. Entire countries are becoming weaker as we become lazy, instant pleasure-seeking men. There is no need to be strong anymore. All these comforts and distractions make life easier, and an easy life breeds weakness. Comfort kills creativity, and with this, men are becoming incels at a frightening rate.
What in the world do you mean other people are becoming incels by being sedentary? Everything you've said here sounds actually like some of the most incel-type stuff I've ever heard. You're comparing young men to Alexander the Great for no discernible reason whatsoever. You're claiming that corporations are secretly trying to pump men full of estrogen. You're claiming that this generation of men are some of the weakest.
Like, is it, he's talking about like the, people being weak when they're not. Like a lot of people point towards the military as being this idea of our military is weaker than, the world, the greatest generation, the World War II guys and things like that, when that's not really the case in a lot of different ways. In Vietnam, the average weight that a soldier carried, rucksack and all, was around 50 pounds, I believe. Now soldiers, grunts on the ground, are required to carry a load of 90 to 200 pounds on it. We also tend to be stronger because you have more people doing these overhyped workouts. You also talk about the steroids that goes through it. So it's this completely backwards idea of what's actually happening. The good old days. He's a giant conspiracy theorist half the time, I've noticed. He'll just say things without really citing a source, or just straight up plagiarize other channels. Yeah, I saw where you had him plagiarizing other channels. Yeah, it just seems like it's this mumbo jumbo, made up masculinity, red pill, Andrew Tate bullshit.
Most pathetic losers that you've ever seen. If that doesn't sound like incel dialect, then I don't really know what does.
You accept being weak. You lower your standards for yourself and those around you. And this really is how civilizations collapse. Now in Fight Club, this collapse is seen through the radicalization of these men, who are forming stronger bonds and stronger dedication to Fight Club.
There's nothing wrong with men crying and being vulnerable. Also, men come in different forms of masculinity. The soft-spoken ones and the macho ones. Yeah, and that's one thing it talks to. And there's this whole idea, he's talking about suicide and all this other stuff. A big part of why male suicide is so much larger than a lot, men tend to commit suicide more often than everyone else. Let's not even get into military men, who he would probably consider the most macho of all, is because for years we were told to pull it up by our bootstraps, to not talk about our emotions, to not show weakness, to not, do anything that has to do with emotion. We must be what they say stoic, but it's a very delusional idea of what a stoic person is. The irony of talking about how men are weak while doing a YouTube video instead of being in the mines. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. He should be in the mines, taking care of this, showing people how to be masculine. I like that. Oh, man.
Highlighted with the membership initiation, where those who want to work in the top circle of Fight Club must go through grueling discomfort, standing outside for 3 days with no food, water, or shelter, where they are repeatedly threatened and told they're not wanted. The test is designed.
Right. This is what they're showing is a typical indoctrination ritual that you do. You need to go through some suffering to be part of the club. It's almost like watching Hell Week in colleges and things like that. It's designed to kind of break you down.
Designed to filter out the weak and those who can delay their gratification. Once initiated, these men must shave their hair, wear the same clothes, and remove their names.
Which, once again, goes completely against the point you made before about supposedly all of them being different. You just said here all these men must shave their heads, change their clothes, and remove their names from themselves. So by definition, all these guys are the same and part of the same hive mind, which goes completely against the point you tried to make earlier about all of them being different from each other now. Holy crap, I'm not sure if Moon actually scripts his videos or not, but I'm guessing not, given just how often his points completely clash with each other.
It's only in his search for Tyler does the narrator realize he is Tyler. Tyler is his masculine projection. Tyler is the part of him that has been repressed all these years as a wage slave. Tyler was the only way he could live the life he wished for, the person he needed to pretend to be, to get where he wanted to be. Every step within this film is Tyler's journey into becoming the man he'd always repressed inside of himself. And after realizing this, Tyler goes back to the house, only to understand that all the soap making was for bomb making. It's now very clear what Fight Club is, what Project Mayhem is. It's a therapeutic release for Tyler to deal with his deep-seated emotional issues.
No, nothing about Fight Club at all is clearly therapeutic for the narrator whatsoever. The entire point of the film, and especially the entire point of the final acts of the film, are to showed that none of this actually helped the narrator at all with his mental stability. Starting Fight Club and embracing toxic masculinity did not help him at all in finding any kind of purpose or meaning within his life. Funny enough, as shown at the very end of the film, the one thing that he ends up getting that actually helps him find purpose in life is a relationship with a woman. Literally, the entire point of that final act there is showing that creating Tyler didn't help the narrator at all in finding a purpose in life. But finding Marla did. How in the world did Moon miss that? They're so on the nose about that at the end of this film. Moon is just constantly trying to cycle back and find reasons to say why this film seems to want to embrace toxic masculinity and why you should too, when really this film is a cautionary tale against toxic masculinity. That's the entire message here, and as stated before, David Fincher himself has commented on that as well. And Fight Club is a lot more straightforward with its messaging than something like The Matrix, but for some reason Moon keeps missing it here. I just can't believe it.
After understanding this, Tyler goes into an emotional breakdown as he no longer has any identity. No one around him knows his true self, and he doesn't either. But before we get to the end of the story, we first need to understand the third and most important reason for all this male weakness, and that is the subversion of values and virtues. On a massive scale, we have seen our values being subverted. We see relentless hedonism being praised and rewarded as empowering. Our culture no longer seeks to uplift, but to denigrate our population. But when you are binded by the same values and virtues, you want to protect the society that you have. In fact, you will do everything to keep it. That's why you see strong men like President Zelensky out on the streets defending a nation from authoritarianism.
I'm sorry, what? Did you just call President Zelensky a strong man? You mean the guy whose board members got involved in a giant $100 million embezzlement scandal? You mean the guy who pretty much has lost the majority of trust in Ukraine because of this embezzlement scandal and his involvement in it? You mean the guy who's basically making the war with Russia even worse for his country because of his actions? I mean, this is bad enough as it was, but now calling Zelensky, of all people, a strong man is just the cherry on top here. I kinda can't believe Moon just said that even after all the insane stuff he's already said in this video. If you were already wondering about the validity of Moon's video here, this should be the kicker that tips you off. It's also funny because even people in his own comment section are calling him out for how stupid this claim was. Which, not gonna lie, I can't really say I blame them. Overall, it's very clear that Moon has no real interest in discussing what Fight Club is really about. He obviously just wants to misappropriate this film from what it's really about and claim that it's all about encouraging and reaffirming toxic masculinity and incels when it's really not. That is quite literally the polar opposite of what the film is trying to say. Anyone out there with even the slightest sense of media literacy can absolutely tell you that, but obviously Moon isn't really looking to talk to those kind of people with this video at all. He seems really just to want to sell people that he thinks might be unassuming.
Moon is truly unbearable. Honestly, I found his takes even more baffling than JDA, which is saying a lot. I had some like disagreements on JDA in that form, like the referring to him as a lolcow, I think was one of the biggest ones, because I don't think he fits that narrative. I don't remember some of the other ones for it. We also have, I don't know if he's still in chat, but I got a friend on the channel, a friend who comes into my Discord, EGAD, who is friends with him. And, you know, he made some discussions and we talked about that as well in the senses. But yeah, I get it. In a lot of the ways that these people talk about masculinity and other things like that are just not true. And it's just kind of made up BS. Ooh, we got another one beat. 2 in 1 stream. Let's fucking go. Ha ha. Oh, that's very fair. I personally found some of his behaviors kind of lolcow-like, but everyone has a different perspective on it, of course. Hey, there he is. Playing. Speaking of which, I meant to ask you, how are you enjoying Rogue Trader?
On this idea that Fight Club is all about embracing toxic masculinity when it very clearly...
Yeah, I agree that he can tread very close into it, and I kind of disagree with EGAD on the like the performative stuff. I do like, it's very well that he could be performative, but in that same time, like that's the perception he's putting out for everyone else, right? I enjoyed it. I built an Adaptus Arabides with a shotgun. Not a bad choice. Not a bad choice.
Clearly is not. And
There we go. Yeah, I think I was talking about Utterly Noah. I'm glad you're enjoying it, EGAD. I think that's a good game in itself. I do that a lot, Utterly Noah. You'll get to know that about me. In fact, Kimoji has to be there at the beginning of the stream. Otherwise, I may not unmute myself in the beginning. Fun story, when I first started out, I had a stream where I was talking about an anti-woke subject, and something was wrong because I could see my mic making noise and, picking me up in OBS, but apparently something was off because it wasn't making it actually to the stream. So I had an entire stream where you see me pause through videos and I said nothing or nothing was heard. What I was going to say, Tired Kimoji, what makes you think that he would be a horror cow, right? I would put someone like, I could see Tactical Templar going down that route. What should we pick here? Health, increase minions life, increase minion damage. All right, we'll go with those. Yeah, I've made some mistakes. Yeah, Tactical Templar is something else when it comes to people to talk about. All right, let's finish up your video.
even with people like David Fincher, the actual director of the movie, literally stating that that's not what the film is about, people like Moon will try to push that idea anyway. There definitely is a real goal and also a real danger to intentional media misappropriation. And believe it or not, it's not even just things like Fight Club or The Matrix that have been intentionally misappropriated by other people to try to push an agenda. Even a franchise like Sonic the Hedgehog, of all things, has actually had right-wingers try to co-opt it before to try to push their own bigoted beliefs on other people. To this very particular group of people who are mostly Trump supporters and also apparently mostly live outside of the US for some strange reason, Sonic the Hedgehog was totally always an anti-communist franchise, and Sonic is always gonna oppose the left and he's always gonna agree with right-wingers like us. Yes, this is somehow a real group. Enter the Sonic Would Love Us community, perhaps the most notorious subset of the Sonic fandom, if you can even call them fans at all. For those unaware of the origins of this group, as they themselves have stated it many times before, they're a group of extremist right-wing Sonic fans that pretty much exist only on Twitter and in their own personal Discord. Which apparently breaking
I think he's going to become a horror cow because of how increasingly unhinged his actions are. Maybe it could come to that place. EGAD says he feels like he's pretty much more performative, but sometimes you could step over that line. These guys are more Lolka-esque, in my opinion. Honestly, even more so than Moon and JDA. Literally, all they do is blame leftists just for things that they dislike. Yeah, that can be a common thing amongst, this new like MAGA idea where everyone to the left of them is a liberal, is a conservative, is a communist, without ever understanding like the difference between those. They're even calling like conservatives that are against Trump liberals. They call, it's this thing where it's the same thing that happened a while back with a lot of the overly progressive people, the very far left people, where if you weren't, with our beliefs, you were, a right winger, you were a Nazi, you were whatever thing they could come up with for it. Oh, it could be worse. He could be Boogie 2.0. I don't know if anyone could get to that level at this point.
News as of me making this video got nuked somehow, according to their Twitter posts here. From what I've gathered from all these posts that popped up yesterday, apparently their server actually got taken down and a lot of the accounts in it ended up getting reprimanded by Discord itself. Of course, instead of actually taking responsibility for their actions and perhaps understanding that a lot of the things they were saying in this server, such as saying the N-word multiple times, 160 times in this server in fact, and also constantly breaking their own server's rules that they'd set up for it, as well as saying they wanted—
Oof, Noah's in the chat now. Maybe I shouldn't mention that I have said it before.
to shoot ATF agents and other things might have caused this server to be taken down by Discord's mod team. They could have taken a step back and really reflected and realized this, but unfortunately they decided to make a big post instead, blaming the authoritarian left for the destruction of their server. No, I am not making this up, and it's genuinely hilarious. According to this user, all this trouble exists because there are Sonic fans whose opinions are to the right of Bernie Sanders.
A lot of the way, hey, what's going on, Blake? Glad to see you here. A lot of the ways I've done it on mostly on like Twitter and stuff like that is usually, it's more with the F slur where where people will like put in the blanks or whatever to not fully say the word. And I'll be like, if you're going to say the F slur, say the whole F slur, right? So who are we roasting this time? We're watching Otterly Noah's video. We already got done with Vara Dark, and I can say that you can see her changing away from the overly woke analysis. Her analysis of Ubisoft wasn't completely right. Like there was a lot of, those typical things that they talk about, but she did mention a lot of Ubisoft's history and kind of the fall of it, right?
Bernie Sanders. Of all the left-wing people you could have picked, you picked Bernie Sanders? Even in terms of leftism, there's a lot more extreme people you could have picked, but you picked Bernie Sanders. All right, then. And now they go on to say the authoritarian left have adapted and changed their tactics. They have gotten smart. If we want to stand a chance against them, we need to be smarter. Well, I don't know about any authoritarian left guys, but maybe just don't do things that blatantly break Discord's TOS. Maybe if you ran a normal server, things like this wouldn't happen all the time, since apparently your server has been nuked multiple times from what I've gathered. Discord tends not to take down servers that are pretty normal, but that's just a thought there, of course. Well, according to them,
with Discord, there are terms and services, and yes, using slurs and things like that falls under those terms of service that you shouldn't be doing. Bernie Sanders, the old man. I knew a lot of people that were like big fans of Bernie from then. I can't say I ever was, but then again, you're talking about like me voting for Trump in the first election. So, no, we don't want that. Resurrect menus. Yeah, let's go with that one.
He started as a right-wing opposition to the Sonic Would Hate You group, whatever that means exactly. I myself obviously am a Sonic fan and have been for a long time, but I ended up looking—
So that's Noah right there admitting that he's autistic. Yeah, the main reason I brought up the N-word thing is one of their servers' rules is no slurs, and yet they said a bunch of them anyway, which I'm guessing is why their server was nuked. Yeah, more than likely, yeah, that's probably why it was nuked.
Up this group, and I couldn't really find anything on the Sonic Would Hate You group. The closest I could find was this Reddit post discussing how this screenshot of Sonic saying that he hates oppression was sometimes being used against people that had a different opinion than somebody else. But funny enough, despite claiming they're trying to free people from oppression, and also they're doing exactly what Sonic would want them to do, this Sonic Would Love Us group often just misappropriates the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise of all things to try to match their own personal political beliefs, often to insane but also funny degrees. For instance, we've got this person here who's a member of the community who claims that Sega made Sonic as anti-communist propaganda. And clearly Sega made this poster during the development of the first Sonic game to show that it's anti-communist propaganda. When, funny enough, as silly and preposterous as this is to begin with, the poster they're showing here isn't even a real poster made by Sega. It's literally just a Photoshop job that somebody made using Sonic's old design and also an old communist poster mock-up from the 1960s. Even in the replies to this person's post, somebody else points out to them that this wasn't even a real poster at all. Even though apparently they still make the mistake of thinking Sonic was anti-communist for some reason. These people are kind of funny to observe, but they are also genuinely unhinged at times, like when they made this drawing of Adolf Hitler shaking hands with Sonic. Since apparently they think Sonic the Hedgehog would agree with Adolf Hitler, and because of that, they should all be neo-Nazis, because that's what Sonic would want them to do. Right, because Sonic, the guy who's known for not wanting to be tied down at all and wants freedom and also fights a fascist dictator on the daily, clearly would sympathize with Adolf Hitler of all people. Also, I hate to break it to you guys, but Sonic isn't real. He's a fictional cartoon hedgehog. Sorry to burst your bubble there, kiddos. Oh, also, Santa Claus is...
You see this in like other medias too, where they talk about like Captain America would be on the side of ICE or on the side of Trump and things like that, when that's just not clearly not what it would be. You know, Captain America believed in a lot of the freedom, the Constitution, against, you know, I always hate to say the word, but like fascist regimes. Yeah, exactly. Cap is fictional. So yeah, just the idea like is crazy to me. Get him. I need more of them.
Isn't real either if you were still thinking that. But even if Sonic was real, he clearly wouldn't like fascists based on all the stuff in his games. Like, this is genuinely so stupid it's kind of laughable, but it's also genuinely dangerous to see how these people are thinking. They seem to have deluded themselves into thinking they're oppressed for some reason and that Sonic would want them to not be oppressed at all, even though really they're kind of the ones doing the oppressing here. Sympathizing with Hitler, one of the most oppressive people in history, is already probably a major red flag for that. They seem weirdly upset and almost to an unhinged degree with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise in the modern era and seem to blame leftism and socialism and communism and minorities and LGBT as the reasons why they think it's bad now. Heck, there's even a conversation of them here comparing Sonic to Steven Universe of all things for no real reason whatsoever. According to them, Sonic is going in a woke Tumblr direction just like Steven Universe did. It should have stayed a right-wing story made only for us all along. Yeah, sure guys, that totally makes sense. Even compared to all the other guys.
It's funny to think how Archie Sonic pretty much beat several ground and space dictators, but no one read Archie until completion, so we forget about that.
Guys I brought up previously, that being the people who misappropriate the Matrix in Fight Club, I think these guys are even whinier than those guys were. They really truly seem to have nothing better to do with their time than constantly complain about the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise and blame minorities on why they think it's bad now. Hey guys, you know what something that Sonic would actually want you to do would be, is to touch grass. He's always running outside and getting fresh air.
No, touching grass is bullshit. It's on the internet or not at all.
Why don't you guys try some of that too? You might be in a lot healthier of a mindset if you actually take his advice. It looks like inevitably these guys have also been blacklisted from a number of sites, like one of their mods being blacklisted from Linktree and his account being entirely blocked on there. It looks like the reason given for this was violating their community standards, which, gee, I can't imagine why that happened there. Also, in a very funny twist, from what I was told, one of the users in their old Discord server that got nuked also shared a server with Tactical Templar of all people. Yes, you heard that right.
Tactical Templar reference, let's go!
Templar apparently has indirect ties to the Sonic with Love Us community, which I can't say I'm surprised by at all. For those who may not know, Tactical Templar is a fake Christian anti-woke slop channel who's been around for quite a bit and has been a lolcow for quite a bit as well. He ended up getting discovered by the commentary community on YouTube after making a tweet saying how he thought marital was totally okay.
Memory Life says, I'm a huge fan, Templar. I especially love your takes on marital grape. Have you ever participated in the act? If so, I salute you. What
I
the
don't
fuck
know.
are you talking about?
I don't know that Tactical Templar has ever had sex.
I love your take on marital grape. There is no such thing as marital grape. When you get married under
the fact that there is a chance Tactical Templar saw Sonic feet art terrifies me. Please don't ever say that again. Oh.
the church, you fucking inbred invalid retard. When you get married under the church, you become one body, one flesh. So when you are married, consent is implied.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Wow, that sure is a big yikes, and he's also gotten banned off Twitter because of this in general, and also for saying pretty bad things about women.
To all the women out there who think that it's empowering to have a job.
This makes sense given he can't stop bringing up furries randomly.
And think that it's demeaning to obey your husband. You don't want to just be his piece. You don't just want to listen to him. And you don't want to do what is in the bounds of your job, which is to be submissive as a wife and to make babies. Today we're going to be talking about big anime titties and thick with extra C thighs. Because, you see, SJWs are the most hypocritical, the most immoral, and the most dishonest people in the world. A bunch of skanks, a bunch of low IQ, cum gutter skanks. Someone intrudes on my time, and they come in and make the situation uncomfortable by not reading that goddamn
Intrudes
sign.
on my
I
time?
tell you what, I'm knocking that bitch out, and then I'm kicking her out of my house. And I hate this trope.
I don't think this guy could knock anybody out, much less be able to get her out of his house.
This weak men trope. Let him take that hand and just with the might of Zeus just slap the ever-living... I don't know if I can say that on YouTube.
He's definitely become quite the anti-woke lolcow, and also he's weirdly obsessed with me too, which is very funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a content creator, there are many things that you have to get used to and comfortable with. Like the reality that if you put an opinion on the internet, there are going to be people that don't like it for one reason or another. And those people are well within their right to make a video criticizing your video. That is the marketplace of ideas. And I'm all for that, and I completely support that. However, one thing that I don't think I will ever get used to is this sort of type of people that you will...
His odor could probably knock people out. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, man.
This is a YouTube channel called Otterly Noah. This is the avatar. This person uses blue sky. The red flags, they are already a building up. Brothers, welcome to the channel. We're gonna look at a bunch of furries that took exception to a bit of content that I made. This guy, Otterly Noah, is a furry. Either way, the video is still going back up and the sentiment has not changed. However, we have the perpetual lying from these people on the left, Otterly Noah, who is the furry in question, this gay lisping
Who's this obsessed knight? Hey, K-Med, what's going on? You've been missing out if you haven't been seeing or adding Tactical Templar to your list. This guy is probably one of the most pathetic anti-wokers in existence, and definitely I think in lolcow status. He's constantly being kicked out of like anime VTuber communities. There's like a stream where he it sounded like he was taking care of business while stream sniping another streamer. He's Tactical Roar now. Oh yeah, because his shit got deleted, didn't it? Did you see he came back to Twitter Tactical Roar. All right, I got to go find him again. I appreciate that.
They were going to go out and try to make some statement about, oh yes, I can see why it got deleted. It could be 100,000, 1 million Otterly Noahs making videos saying that no, these women are beautiful, there's nothing to see here. And the reality is that it wouldn't matter, because no amount of propaganda in the world is going to compensate for what you're seeing on your screen. Is a video from a content creator named Otterly Noah.
Overall, just like all the other people we've already discussed here, these guys don't even really seem like Sonic fans to me and just want some excuse to try to push these bigoted beliefs onto other people under the guise of being fans of a particular piece of media. They try to claim that they're the real Sonic fans and nobody else is. Sonic was always right-wing. And
I hate to tell everybody, the autists are the real Sonic fans. Those guys are the extremes.
claim to want to get rid of oppression just like Sonic would, when really they seem to fail to realize the only oppressive ones here are them. Sorry guys, I don't really think Sonic's on your side here, but maybe you can go join.
Yeah, according to some of these people that Otterly is bringing up.
Eggman instead. I bet he'd be happy to have you guys on his team. Overall, it's very clear that misappropriation of media is a very dangerous and very long-running tactic often used by some of the worst people around. Instead of actually wanting to engage in good media discussions or even just hearing other people's perspectives on media, all they really seem to care about in terms of discussing it is trying to use it as a way to push their own usually terrible beliefs on other people. It's something that's happened for a long time now, but thankfully me doing the kinds of videos I do here has helped a lot more people become aware to this kind of thing overall. A lot more people are slowly catching on to the grift and how these kinds of people grift in general. People like Melody Mac have straight up left the platform, and channels like Geeks and Gamers, Jesterbell.
I've heard rumor mill though that she might be coming back. But we'll see. I know she had the uncomfortable moment with old oh man, why are names just so hard? Oh boy, more content for me if she returns. Yeah, she's supposedly coming back. You've seen her on a couple other podcasts looking incredibly uncomfortable. Oh no, oh no. Yeah, Jeremy.
And Clownfish TV are gradually dwindling in views as people catch on to their grift. And thankfully, it seems that me doing the kinds of videos I do here has helped a lot of people really realize what a grifter is and how to spot that in general and stay away from it. And ultimately, where they should be looking for real media criticism.
It's the quartering, and literally, you can see her mouth to the girl because the quartering is like, yeah, we're gonna hang out later, and you literally see Melanie Mac like mouth like, you should come with us, please, please help me.
Which is exactly the goal of why I do these videos anyway. So thanks everybody for supporting these videos. I'm happy to keep hunting grizzly bears. But what do you think? Am I wrong? Am I a gay woke furry? Jeez. Let me know in the comments below. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video or learned something new from it. I do lots of videos like this in general, often talking about various media, so if you like this video, you'll probably like the other videos I have planned as well. Next week, I'll be talking about how J.K. Rowling intentionally mistreats her autistic coded characters, so stay tuned for that. And I have plenty of other videos planned talking about different media as well, so if any of that sounds up your alley, be sure to like the video and also consider subscribing. You can also join my Discord to hang out with a bunch of different film and animation fans overall. Special thanks to my patrons and YouTube members who keep me doing what I do here monetarily. I appreciate y'all a ton for choosing to pitch in with the extra monetary effort to keep me doing what I do here, and I appreciate you for coming to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it or learned something new from it. But for
there it is, Otterly Noah. Another good video, I think, from his side. Go check him out. Some of his other videos. There's a link to the current video if you want to watch it without me yapping, and give the guy a like. Yeah, so far I've enjoyed all of your videos, and it gives me a chance to like criticize. You're not just completely on the side that I agree with on everything, so it makes it interesting. I'm going to finish up this run. I don't think we're going to make it to the Trench Crusade stuff. I will probably do that Saturday because it does interest me. I mean, I have a Trench Crusade Wiggler. And it's gonna end. But while all y'all are here, if you haven't liked the video, definitely like the video. I appreciate, that, just the, something to help me out. I feel it makes for a good discussion overall when you have someone with slightly different viewpoints. Yeah, me too. I don't always want to agree with everybody, and I don't want to just repeat videos that other people watch. So, and then if you're super generous, if you feel super generous, you can always give me a subscribe. I am working my way up. I'm on the road to 500. My next goal is 200, as I've stated before. So definitely help me out. Definitely hope if you enjoyed the stream. And I think we're going to call it here. You enjoyed streaming with Simon because of that. I definitely got to get you on stream at some point. Hey, yeah, just let me know. Just let me know. I'm always willing to go on stream with anybody. I've even gone on like Atreus's stream and talked with him. And I've had a few anti-wokers, though they don't like me anymore. Like Nobody and Dash Attack, who I've talked to Dash Attack about, doing some streams together as well, mostly talking about gaming. All right, guys, and with that, if check out this game, check out Be My Horde. Yeah. It's like $7 on Steam, and if you like a light little game that you can watch videos with, and you have a fan of Survivor, it does have its own little twist to it. That is something good.
What's that?
Yo, thank you, Otterly. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. I enjoyed the stream with Simon because of that. I definitely I'm repeating stuff now. But with that, guys, y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming by, and I will see you tomorrow.